At this time, I'd like to call the regularly scheduled meeting of the Plaquemines Parish Council as the Port Harbor and Terminal District to order at 1 p.m. for its regularly scheduled February 26th meeting. This time, the Secretary will call the roll, or the machine is open. My clicker's not working. Somebody didn't want me to be here today. That didn't work. Let the record reflect that all council members are present. And at this time, we'll ask Councilmember Black to lead us in the prayer and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
We take this moment to acknowledge Almighty God and thank Him for our bountiful blessings, especially for this parish's natural resources. We give thanks to God for our brave and courageous men and women in our military who daily risk their lives to protect our precious freedom, and we pray for our world leaders to know and how to obtain world peace. We also pray that this government body, comprised of both council and administration, will always serve our parish with honesty, humility, and equality to all. And as this government body gathers here today, we pray for the wisdom to know right from wrong and the courage to do that which is right.
Thank you. Councilman Black.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. At this time, we'll move to status report by the Executive Port Director, having no executive sessions today.
Good afternoon, Mr. President, Mr. Chairman, and board members. I am Sandy Sanders, the Executive Director of Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District. As follows is my Executive Director report for the reporting period 13 through 25 February. It was quite a short period due to the Mardi Gras holiday. But on a recent trip up to Washington, D.C., I met at Senator Cassidy's office and met with one of his staffers who intimated he wanted to come down to our area and see the port and see the projects that I was talking to him, our community transportation projects. So we took him down to the port proper, gave him a brief, and also told him the importance of the tunnel and the bridge. And as luck would have it, we got caught with the bridge up, so we got to experience that for about 30 minutes. We came back through the tunnel, and again, it was leaking pretty good, so I ran through there a couple of times so we could feel that, and showed him where they were painting it. And I said, you know, I think someone in the paper quoted, we're putting lipstick on this, and what we need is a new bridge. So the last thing that I would want to do as a developer of this port is to start bringing a lot of traffic, and that traffic has nowhere to go to get out of Plaquemines but to go up Highway 23. So I illustrated the importance of that Peters Road bypass, the rail bypass. So he got a good earful when we were in D.C., and he got a good eyeful when he was down here. Recently had a meeting with Councilman Bartholomew regarding federalizing the levees on the East Bank. There is a critical path towards this goal. It was written in the Word of Bill to have these East Bank federal levees federalized. It was marginalized, but the wording was in there with Senator Vitter's office. So we are going to be setting up meetings with Senator Vitter's office to make sure that they do embrace this concept. The authorization is there, but then we'll have to start figuring out how we're going to get it funded. And that'll be a whole new ball game, but you can't start funding unless you have the authorization. So that would be a tremendous economic development to our East Bank. Last Friday we had a very important meeting at the Venice Port Complex with the principals at Venice Port Complex, George P. Hache, and also the parish president. The chairman was with us. Council member Williams was also there, as well as Vincent Felice, the new parish coastal zone manager. And we were talking about banding together, shoulder to shoulder, and putting everything we have into our community, coming together and taking advantage of what's going to happen in the Eastern Gulf. And what's going to happen in the Eastern Gulf, there's going to be drilling for oil and gas there. And it's going to happen whether Venice Port Complex is ready for it or not. And so a wise folks would get in front of this and make sure that we can also support that. So by doing so, we would be marrying up not only dredging either the South Pass or Baptiste Colette, possibly both. It just depends on how we have to go get the funding. But also, at the same time, being a big boon to coastal restoration. And with that would come jobs and a tremendous economic development to the south part of our parish. Spoke last time about site certification, which is Louisiana economic development program that qualifies industrial sites to be used by LED's global marketers when they're attracting foreign investment into our state. This site certification, when it would be performed on the port property, it takes into account a lot of preliminary and phase one, what we call engineering qualification tests. Once we are site certified, again, the global marketers that work for LED attracting foreign investment have that property down on the south part of our parish as a potential to bring in industry. So very important. LED will pay for 75% of the cost to get it certified. The port would bear the other 25%. Plaquemines Association of Business and Industry has voted to put $2,500 towards that cost. So they've got their arms around it as well. And what's important to note is these tests would have to be done whether someone other than the port paid for it or not. It's a preliminary to getting this port developed. So why not have someone pay 75% of the state? So it's a good step. Mr. Chairman, subject to your questions or observation, this concludes my report.
Thank you. Any comments or questions about the report? Or any questions about anything?
Mr. Chairman.
Councilman Bartholomew.
Thank the move that we move in with the port and the effort of the directors putting. I think Plaquemines Parish will grow and will receive the benefits in the very near future of his efforts and his staff's efforts, because they are committed to increase the revenues of Plaquemines Parish as a whole, not just a certain area, but the whole Plaquemines Parish. And in terms, that'll provide a lot of service for the state and plus the United States as a whole because of the corridor that we represent. So I want to appreciate the efforts, and thank you, and I hope you continue being aggressive.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. President.
In regards to the information that Mr. Sanders spoke about with the Word bill, with the East Bank federalization levy, that information has been sent through Mr. Scalise's representative, who was in Belchase yesterday, to the Congress, Mr. Vitta, Mr. Richmond, Mr. Cassidy, as well as Mr. Scalise. And so we'll be working closely with Mr. Sanders to follow up on that project.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions? That doesn't surprise me.
I know it doesn't. I know it doesn't. You know, I've been coming here for, I'm 58 years old. I've been coming here since I was 20 years old, believe it or not. And I'm going to tell you something, man. I've been hearing these same things over and over and over. I don't see nothing but talk. I don't see nothing but talk. Nothing just going right here, man. But we paying all this money to these guys. I mean, the people in the South saying, what we paying this money for? We're not getting the benefits out of this. This talk. We haven't seen any action yet. The people putting the money there. Not seeing no action. And all we're going to do, talk. Let's see some action, man. Let's start seeing some action. We paying a whole lot of money. But somebody got to get up and start saying something. People got to stop being quiet, man. We paying, if I was getting paid to do some of this, they would have been fired me. They would have been fired me. Oh, yeah. I'm going to be real with y'all. Hey, we got to start producing, man. And Mr. Crumble, there's nothing against you. You guys are Republicans. We got a Republican. We only got one Democrat in the state of Louisiana. Now, we could federalize the 11th. That's been happening for a long time. But guess what? Now we got Republicans in there. Nothing still not happening. Let's tell it like it is. We're talking, but these guys ain't doing nothing. They're not doing nothing.
Thank you for those comments.
For the people.
Thank you for those comments. Mr. Lawrence.
Warren Lawrence, 120 Timber Canal Lane. The only thing I have is the question is the 25% for the site certification. What is the dollar figure on that?
That's a good question, Mr. Lawrence. It's going to be based on how large of site that they certify. I've been quoted as little as 40,000 up to 90,000. And again, the port would has anticipated this. So in our budgets for this year, we set aside money for these type of costs.
And those figures are the total cost, 75% to be borne by the state, 25% to be borne by the parish, and $2,500 to be borne by PA B.
That's correct, Mr. Chairman.
No, that's the total. 40 to 90 is the total. The environmental assessment has been done when we purchased the property, so that'll knock something off of the total, and it'll be done by acreage and the formula, and we'll come to that figure soon as we negotiate the agreement with the consultant provided by DED. Yes, Mr. Turner.
Burgard Turner, 161 East Bellevue. The question is, what role will Trident be playing in this, if any?
Site certification, Trident will not be involved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions? Being none, we'll move to bids and advertisements, and we have none. We'll move to introductions of ordinances and resolutions. Councilman Bartholomew? Councilman Blank?
None.
I have one, and this is in reference to the conversation that we had a little while ago about the working with the Veniceport complex. I'll introduce this and ask everyone to look through the agreement. I've forwarded a copy to the legal department, and hopefully they'll look through it as well. And at the next meeting, we may be able to discuss it and possibly adopt it. And it's a resolution authorizing Maynard Sandy Sanders as Executive Director of the Plaquemines Port Harbor Terminal District to enter into a memorandum of understanding with the Plaquemines Parish government and the Louisiana Fruit Company doing business as the Veniceport Complex to develop opportunities and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Have none.
I have none.
I have none, sir.
I have none.
At this time, we'll move to item 6A. 6A and 6B will be withdrawn. Thank you. And are there any new business to come before us today? Being none, we'd like to move to the approval of the February 12th, 2015 meeting minutes. Have someone to offer those minutes? Councilman Lapine offers. Councilman Edgecombe seconds. Any comments or discussions on the minutes? Hearing none, machine is open on the adoption of the minutes. I'm voting yes, but Open the machine. And the minutes are approved 9-0. Could we get someone to come grab this and see if they can fix it? Okay, at this time we'll move to the, oh, I'm sorry. I have a motion to adjourn. Councilman Lapine moves. Councilman Edgecombe seconds. Machine is open on the adjournment. Vote me yes. Machine is open on the adjournment. And the meeting is adjourned at 1:19, 9-0. Thank you. This time we will call the regularly scheduled meeting of the Plaquemines Parish Council for February 26th to order, and the machine is open for roll call. Let the record reflect that 9 council members are present. Parish President Cormier and his administration are here. The meeting's called to order at 1:19. We'll move to executive session, which we have none and no proclamations. We'll move to the status report by the Parish President. Mr. President.
As we stated earlier, Mr. President, we're working on a word of bill with Congress. We've received some information and sent that up to Washington, and also we'll be working with the port. We've also gotten with the other people involved with Mardi Gras Pass, Councilman Barthélemy, and we're working to have that information dispersed to the state. Along with Mardi Gras Pass, we've checked with Ms. Salvant with the Port Sulphur Library and some of the problems that we've incurred there or inherited in that particular situation. Also, we are dealing with the parish prison that just opened up, and we met with the Sheriff's Department, the chairman, myself, and our legal people to try to see if we can remedy that problem. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Any comments or questions for the administration? Hearing none, are there any beer and liquor, any bids or advertisements? None. Beer and liquor license, Councilman Barthélemy?
None. I have none.
Councilman Black?
None. I have none.
None, none.
I have none.
I have none.
I have one, sir. Empire Eagle Seafood Group, LLC, 32022 Highway 23, Buras.
Okay.
I
Mrs.
have
Cole?
none.
None. I have a motion to accept the liquor permit. Councilman Edgecombe moves. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilman Williams. Any comments or discussion on the permit? Hearing none. Machine is open. And the permit is adopted 9-0. At this time, I'd like to take the normal procedure of deferrals and withdrawals at this time. So if there's something on the agenda that we're not going to deal with today, it will allow you to know that up front and won't have to sit through a lengthy meeting. Councilman Barthélemy?
I have none at this time.
Councilman Black?
Yes, I want to withdraw 6-0. 6-0.
6-0 will be withdrawn.
That's all.
Councilman Lapine?
Item 6B, as in boy, will be deferred. Item 6C will be withdrawn. And item 6Q will be deferred.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Juneau?
I have none.
I have 6G will be deferred. Councilman Burke?
Have none.
Councilman Salva?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I will be deferring 6A2.
682. Is that it? Councilman Edgerton?
Yes.
Councilman Williams?
I'm going to defer 6A3, 6A4, and 6L.
L. Okay, at this time, I'll recap that real quick in case anyone missed it. 6A, 2, 3, 4 will be deferred. 6B, deferred. C, withdrawn. G, deferred. L, defer. O, withdrawn. Q, defer. And then we'll move back to the regular item of the agenda. It's,
Mr. Chairman?
Councilman Vitale?
Yes, we can defer 6N.
Add 6N to the deferrals?
Yes.
Thank you. Any others? If not, we have our state representative in the audience today with the CPRA representatives, and at this time, they've asked to come forward to be able to make a presentation, and I think that's Councilmember Black.
Yes,
Is that what your intention? You would like to move that?
absolutely. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you. I want to thank Councilman Black for getting me on the agenda and the council chairman. As a member of the legislature, I serve on several committees, two of which are natural resources and transportation. Both of those committees have of many responsibilities. The responsibility of approving the coastal plan for Louisiana, the Coastal Master Plan with CPRA. So the plan goes before both committees that I serve, so I'm very familiar with it. Recently, I became aware of some bond proceeds that may be out there locally that were dedicated originally to coastal restoration. When learning this, I got with members of the CPRA at the state level and also local officials to see what opportunities may actually exist in using the scarce and very valuable resources in these hard economic times in the best manner for the taxpayers. After looking into it further, the Coastal Master Plan, which is reviewed or changed every 5 years, includes presently projects for Plaquemines Parish. The original project that the bond money was allocated for was not one of the plans in the Coastal Master Plan. It's, to my knowledge, and after doing some research with my cohorts with CPRA, that if this government chooses to use the local or some of the local bond issue money that's there for plans in the master plan, the local government could be eligible for a state match. And that in itself deserves our immediate attention as we move forward in restoring the coast. So my goal in bringing this issue forward to you today is to make you aware, as your state representative, the opportunity to best use the local resource that you already have and match it with the state resources that we have some of. With me today are members of CPRA. If you have any further questions, I gave each of you the Coastal Master Plan and the annual plan. The annual plan is still not approved. It'll be presented to us in the session to either vote, up or down on. And the annual plan is where we move projects forward that are in the master plan. So time is of the essence. So I ask you to consider this opportunity very, very seriously. And if you have any questions, you can either pose them to me or to us. And I do have members again here of the CPRA. I would especially like to thank members of the administration and the council, Blair Rittner in particular, for helping me decipher through all of this.
Do you have someone from CPR who would like to make a comment? Good.
Chairman Roussel, members of the council, thanks for having me today. I don't have a lot of comments or a formal presentation, but I just did want to reiterate some minutes from a meeting that we had, our last board meeting. Mr. Graham, the Executive Director of CPRA, did a presentation on some of the Restore Act funding that may be becoming available in the next several months to a year. Of the Restore funds, we have allocated 10% of those funds for local parish matching of projects that are in the master plan. So I'm here today just to basically let you guys know about that funding will be available. We don't have an exact amount of what the funding is, but it is specifically detailed for programs and funding for parishes for individual projects that are in the master plan. So when Representative Leopold discussed it with me, we did want to come by today and make sure that you guys were aware of it. And again, we're going to be working through. We don't have exact estimates of what that funding is because of the variability in the All Spill Act funds right now. But we are planning on looking at projects and trying to help parishes look for projects that fit in the master plan, you know, either in engineering design or some that are closer to construction. So that's all.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any comments or questions?
Yes, sir. You say the funds, 10% of the Restore Act funds will be available, so they're not readily available?
Yes, ma'am, that is correct. And of those Restore Act funds, the Restore Act is set up into different buckets. And buckets 1 and buckets 3, the state allocation and some of the resource damage assessment is going to be allocated to this. So it's buckets 1 and 3, and it's 10% of those funds. They are, our board, the CPRA board, did approve using the 10% of those funds when they do become available. So they are not available yet, but they are available, and we did make a motion at our last board meeting to make sure that our board was aware that we were going to be using those funds for these projects, and it was approved.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any further comments or questions? We one from the audience, but
yes,
we want to, before you leave, we'll thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question for the gentleman who was just talking about the Restore Act, and my question is, did the parish submit any projects for the first round of funding of the Restore Act money? That's the question. Did the parish submit any projects? And I guess the second part of that, you're stating that you're willing to help us identify projects, help us look for projects. Did you help us identify projects in that first round of funding, and did we submit any projects?
Members of the council, I don't have the exact list of projects with me today. I know that some projects probably were submitted as part of the Restore Act. I don't have the list with me right now, but I'm assuming that we do have projects that have been submitted as part of the Restore Act to get funded for Plaquemines Parish.
So would you forward that list
yes, sir.
to the council secretary for
to.
distribution to the public?
Yes, sir.
Or anybody
and
at the table that might want that?
I don't have the list with me today, but I can definitely get that information to you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Representative Leopold?
In closing, to get back on focus, my reasoning in coming here today are the projects that are in the state master plan presently, and those projects, again, are eligible for the state match. There is a bucket, and I'm going to go on record and say this because this is where the rubber meets the road. There are funds presently available to match now. I've got that commitment from CPRA. I don't mind going on the record with it now. And what makes that even more valuable is the fact that the local government has its money available now, and not many parishes do. So I just want to be very clear and pointed that my being here today is about the Coastal Master Plan, which has a lot of projects in it for Plaquemines Parish, which I provided to you, as well as the annual plan and the master plan. They are clearly in the working document, and there is state funding available now, not dependent on a lawsuit or any future time in the future or any other event in the future.
Thank you. You have another question?
Just to make sure we're clear, Mr. Chairman, it was stated that CPRA would be willing to help us look for projects, and my question was, to be clear, that there was a first round of funding of the Restore Act, and so I'm not concerned about the CPRA projects that have already been submitted. What I'm concerned about, this Restore Act money, did we submit a project, and did the CPRA help us submit a project for that pool of money?
The second pool of money?
Yes. No, the first pool. Did we participate in the first pool of the Restore Act money?
My understanding is that those projects have already been submitted, and I'll have to come back and
Right, and
get
that's
you a
the same
of
list
them.
we talked about, you forwarding to the council
Yes, sir.
secretary,
Yes,
so
sir.
we can
It is.
have that to share with everyone.
Yes, sir.
So,
and I apologize, I don't have it with me today, but I'll be glad to get you that.
I think that the effort is to get money out of both buckets.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Bottom line. So, once you forward that to the council secretary, we'll be able to distribute it among
Yes,
the
sir.
council members, and anyone who wants it from the public and council can catch the council secretary. Representative Leopold?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I have a question, Mr. Chairman.
Mr.
I
President?
have a question for Representative. I just want to clarify one thing. The administration has been working really hard on the B2 Vegetated Ridge project, which is not in the state coastal master plan. So I don't want any confusion that would be a 25% match on that particular item. But it would free up money to provide us with our #1 priority for the East Bank levee system. And we hope to continue to work in a cooperative effort to obtain those funds.
I'll be more than willing to help you do that.
Thank you.
Representative, you said we have some local bond money available? I'm not
Let me address that. Mr. Henry, we had a $65 million.
$65 million? Okay, that's fine.
Thank you.
Let the people know, though.
I'm letting them know. Thank you. Councilman Black, that concludes your...
Yes, I just want to reiterate and thank Representative Leopold for his time in his presentation and his continued support, transparency, and openness to talk to this council. Thank you.
Okay, at this time, anyone else have something they'd like to move to? If this
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Councilman
Should we
Bathalli.
move to 7E?
Councilman Bathalli wishes to move to 7E. Any objection? None?
A resolution expressing the sense of the Plaquemines Parish Council that it is in the best interest of the people of this parish and the state to close Mardi Gras Pass.
Well, we're going to the discussion first.
Yeah, we're going to go to discussion, then I'm going to seek a suspension thereafter.
Okay, so we move to item 7E, discussion. Councilman Bathalli.
Yes, we have some visitors this afternoon would like to come up and express their concern about Mardi Gras Pass. And at this time, I would open up for the audience. Anybody that would like to come forward, please step and introduce yourselves at the mic and your concern about Mardi Gras Pass.
Yes. State your name and address, if I could, please.
Hi, my name is Ken Ragas, 1311 Holiday Place, New Orleans, Louisiana, 70114, formerly 34329 Highway 11, Buras, Louisiana, pre-Katrina. I won't even mention the name that y'all are using here for this waterway. It is actually a relict salinity control structure, which is explained in the email from Mr. David Haskell, which y'all should have a copy of that I emailed to y'all, and I just gave a copy to the secretary. David Haskell is the owner of the property. He's the CEO of Haskell and Davis Milling and Planning Limited Company, which was a rice processing and planning company back in the 1800s. And they still own the land. You know, it was taken away from them in 1924 or bought from them by the Orleans Levee Board. And it was returned to them in 1924. It was returned to them in 1984 when the land was given back to the Bohemia Spillway landowners. They are paying taxes on the land and the water structure. I mean, this was a salinity control structure, as you see in the email. If you want to, could somebody read the email that I gave you?
In the effort of time, I've read it. Most of us have read it.
Okay, y'all read it?
The bottom line for me is that
I don't have a copy of it. I just gave my last copy.
The bottom line to me is that they are interested in it being closed.
Correct.
So what's stopping them from going and trying to close it on their own rather than asking us to close it?
Come back with that.
You stated that Haspel and Davis owns the property and the structure.
Correct.
And so there's an effort afoot to try to get the local government to get involved in this to close it.
Correct.
My question is...
Why don't they close it?
Correct.
I didn't ask David that.
Well...
I only met him 2 days ago, and I got all this information. But that's a good question, Mr. President. I realize that. I know, you know, we're probably going to hear a lot from the, you know, the Lake Pointe Basin Foundation, if there's the one who wants to keep it open.
Yeah.
So I just thought that I would present to y'all the information that I gathered on the object.
Right. Well, I thank you, and I appreciate that. I guess we're a little short on funds right now. So any nickel that we put out towards something that, you know, should be someone else's obligation, perhaps, in my opinion, personally, is something that we don't have, since we just cut $15.5 million out of our $60 million budget just to balance.
Yeah.
So we are...
I realize that.
Yeah.
You know,
So anyway, I appreciate your
information.
effort. I know you've been working these issues for many, many years, but I don't know, are there any other comments that people want to come forward on Mardi Gras Pass? Please,
Thank you.
Please come forward. Thank you.
How y'all doing today? My name is Bernard Bacone. I live at 117 Irma's Lane in Phoenix. I've been a commercial fisherman for 25 years in Pointe La Hache. There's nothing since the diversion has been over. You're losing tax money. There used to be 100 boats in the marina. They got 5. The people spent money in the parish. I think the parish should close this because it's doing more damage than it's doing good. There's nothing left out there. And I mean, this parish. I mean, I think the parish should help us.
I appreciate your comments. I'll just reiterate that you live on the East Bank. We're trying to keep the budget going, and if we had money, it might be a consideration.
There got to be some kind of money you can find.
We can raise the fees on the ferries, and we can raise the water bills, which we're all going to do all of those things, but the bottom line is we are just not having the funds at this time. If it becomes a coastal restoration project where there's funding to come forward.
It's eating up more land than it's putting, so why isn't it coastal restoration?
I don't really know why it's not.
Well, I'm telling you, it is not doing any good. You're putting fresh water, it's killing the industry out there. So without industry, there's less taxes you have to pay to do things. Am I right?
I don't know about that, and I don't want to debate it with you.
What do you know then?
What do I know?
Yeah, I mean, if that's a tax business, and you with taxes,
well, I'll tell you what I do know. Would you provide us some financial statements to document the comments that you're making? We will evaluate them and move forward. So if you can tell me what we're losing, we can look at it and address it. And I'll be glad to entertain that at the next meeting if you want to bring it.
Okay.
Thank
no problem.
My name is Captain George Rickson, President of Save Louisiana Coalition. I live at 7600 Hopedale Highway in Hopedale, Louisiana. And my organization is a nonprofit group that represents all the commercial fishing associations in this area. And I'm glad Mr. Perennial brought that up about documentation about Mardi Gras Pass. For you folks that may not know what Mardi Gras Pass is, it was an access road to an oil company facility that was breached in 2011. It was a small traverse. It started, and now it's almost 100 feet wide, and it's almost 30 foot deep. And it dumps a tremendous amount of fresh water into the Breton Sound estuary. And as this gentleman said, the economics of the fishing community is very important to this parish. So it's something you may want to look at. And as far as documentation, Mr. Perennial, I have here
Mr. Who?
I'm sorry, Mr. Russell. Forgive me. I have documentation here from the Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries, the 2014 oyster assessment. And because of Mardi Gras Pass, zone CSA1, which is in that area, Bay Gardine, American Bay, Bay Crab, was one of the most productive oyster beds for seed oysters and also sack oysters. It suffered a 72% decrease in productivity in 2014, and the main cause was Mardi Gras Pass. Mardi Gras Pass has been treated like a coastal restoration project. Lake Pontchartrain Basin Foundation has been hesitant. In fact, they've been proactive in leaving it open. This is not a coastal restoration project. It's not a navigable waterway. It shouldn't be treated as such. This should be treated no different than if we had a storm and a levee breached and communities were getting flooded, because that's what's happening. You're losing productivity. You're losing property. It should be closed off. Thank you.
You want to provide the documents to the Secretary?
Yes.
Thank you.
Neil Beshel Boat Launch. He's correct on that pass, but one question I need to know, who owns that? Who ran that diversion all these years? Was it the government, federal government? Was it state government, parish?
I can't answer that, but someone in the audience, Mr. Ragish, you have the answer?
I'm not sure. It was put in during the time when the Orleans Levee Board had control of Plaquemines Spillway in 1969.
Right, because after Katrina,
it was put in for the oyster.
After Katrina, they fixed it, and then someone went down there and dug around it, and that's why we have Mardi Gras Pass.
Yeah.
Well, I know for sure. But anyway, if it's owned by Haspel and Davis, right? And you know, as you were saying, why don't they fix it? So in other words, if I got a barge, I can go plug it up myself. Go in there and sink a barge, and nobody's going to tell me anything other than Haspel and Davis. Because
well,
right now,
between you and Haspel and Davis.
Yeah, I know. But the thing is, what I'm trying to get at is, my business is ruined. I mean, 10% of what I used to do. I mean, we used to have, during oyster season, 200 boats working out of there. I haven't seen an oyster boat in 4 years. And Mardi Gras Pass is even putting any hurt back, you know, where the oysters were trying to come back. Because since the BP spill, we have nothing. I mean, I'm about to lock the door. I'm closing up 2 or 3 hours a day just because I don't have customers. And I know it's my point of view because I had a business going. But it was tax revenue, and it was people coming into the parish and spending money, and now nobody's coming because the shrimp are gone, the crabs are gone. Slowly, the fish will be leaving. And there's one little area that might have built up some land, but as soon as the first storm comes through, it's gone. And I don't know why somebody hasn't addressed it to put the diversion back like it was so they can operate it at High River, let the water come through. That was fine. It worked fine. I mean, we've been here 40 years. I've been here all my life. But now, you know, I'm about ready to come ask you guys for a job because I have no income, no insurance, you know, and trying to, you know, put a Band-Aid on a major, you know, an artery is not going to help. And like they said, they're addressing it as a natural spillway. It's not working. If they want to build land, they need to pump sand. And you know, the people go at them all the time and try and address it, but you know, with a little help from you guys, something might be possible.
Well, I mean, I'm going to defer to the president. Help is one thing, financial aid is another.
I got you. I understand. Okay. And like I said, if I had the money, I'd have went and closed it already. And with the ferry operation and the situation with that, it's killing my business also. They built a launch in the Mississippi River, and they cross over and come fish in my backyard. Used to be my customers. I don't have them anymore. So I lock the door, and then what? You know, the marine is killing us. It's killing our side of the river. It's killing the oyster production, the shrimp production, crab production. We need to regulate, not just let it flow. And they want to cut more holes left and right. They were talking the other night on the news about cutting more holes and just letting it flow. They're talking about opening up and flooding and everything.
Well, your comments are being heard by the CPRA that's still here in the back. So.
I might as well pack up and move, you know, and I don't want to move. All I have is this.
I understand.
So, you know, if something were to come up or somebody was to present something, need you guys to help us out. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, in addressing the remarks that have been made thus far, the administration has already made an effort to initiate a permit request to block Mardi Gras Pass, and we're basing it on the idea that we don't have enough scientific or economic research that has been done by the Lake Pontchartrain Basin or any other group to state, in other words, that it could not endanger the future region on the east bank of the river. So having said that, there will be a meeting on March the 3rd. We welcome any and all of you to be present at that meeting, at which we will make that plea. They presently already have an application in by Sundowner to put culverts there. But again, I don't know what research has been done with the culverts, so what we would like to do, what we're requesting is there will be 2 applications put in, and we're advocating the blockage until some research has been done on that basis.
The research you're going to get right now is whoever's benefiting from what part of it, that's the research you're going to get. Somebody's going to come tell you it's killing me, and the other guy's going to say, no, it's the greatest thing ever.
And that's exactly our point. And
Because
so in other words, it should be going back to its original position.
Yeah, if you
which is
listen
a
to John
natural
Lopez,
closure.
you know, it's the best thing ever. That thing's 100-something foot wide, 80 foot deep. I don't see what kind of land it's building.
And with the high river coming, it could even get
It's going to go worse. It's going to get worse.
Thank you. We got other people, but make it quick, please.
Okay. Could I get my copy of the email from you? Because I don't have my copy. And the other issue that came up from Hassel and Taylor was backflow of surge during hurricanes through there, like it backflows through everything south of Ostrika. So that's in the email. So I got to read it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Mr. Chairman, council members, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak before you. I'd like to share a little light. I've been involved with this. First, my name is Byron Enkelard. I'm the president of Louisiana Oystermen Association, and I serve on the State Oyster Task Force. We've been dealing with this issue for a long time, also with CPRA. Our biggest problem is when you look at CPRA master plan and Mardi Gras Pass, there is a problem because when they did the natural resource assessment, Mardi Gras Pass was never considered into none of this. So that amount of fresh water that's coming into this area from Mardi Gras Pass should throw their whole master plan off because the research was done without it. So it didn't exist. Now it exists, and the state is consistently going on with the master plan as if it didn't exist. So there's no research involves that as far as the damage that's being done out there. We've repeatedly tried to get the state and the federal government to intervene, but it was always blocked by either the state, of course, Lake Pontchartrain Foundation. Even when the oil industry themselves, as Mr. Cormier stated, tried to close it, it was blocked. So what we are looking for, and we understand, Mr. Chairman, we don't have a lot of money. We understand that. But I think the support of this council to support the efforts of our Councilman John and the parish president, I guess basically is what my community is looking for. So I'm not going to tie you up long, just repeating some of the things they've already said. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, before that gentleman steps back, I would like to ask a question. Sir. Mr. Enkelard. Yeah, I would consider you to be an expert in this matter for the next question. Just to educate myself and my colleagues, if you were to close Mardi Gras Pass, how long would it take to actually be able to develop new oyster beds and to be able to return to business?
I think we could be back in business in 3 years. It takes 3 to 5 years for a reef to fully rehabilitate itself. But we could see, because of this area being the most productive area probably in the world for oysters, the current, the salinity change, we could be back in business in 3 years, and we could see an economic boom come back in this community. Right now, we're on life support because of it. This is an oyster community.
Okay, thank you.
Research, you go out there with a dredge 4 or 5 years ago, 100 sacks a day. You go out there now, shells. Louisiana Wild Fisheries has all that research. They planted oysters, they died. They planted no spats, died. Everything they've done died. And sometimes salinity is real good, sometimes it's not. But it's not working, and that's part of it, I believe.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm George Barasich. I serve as president of the United Commercial Fishermen Association, and I also serve on the Governor's Shrimp Task Force and the Oyster Task Force. I've been at this for 23 years. Good to see you, Ben. It's been a long time. Not just for the oysters, which I do. I haven't come over here in 5 years to dredge. Don't even pay to come. All you got to do is go look at the amount of boats when they open the day. This year, they didn't even bother to open it. And they put a lot of our money that came to put rock out there to test it. It didn't work. But I'm here testifying today about the shrimp. Now, we did get a little bump in the white shrimp production, but we lost our brown shrimp production. So it's an overall loss. So it's not just oysters, it's shrimp. And once them shrimp start to fade, you lose your shrimp, you lose your fish. The fish that chase the shrimp, you lose the sports, and then you lose everything, as this guy is complaining about because he's on 10%. So what we're working on now is trying to stay alive, and what's keeping us afloat right now is this little BP money we get. When this money fades out, we're going to be gone. As Brian said, we're on life support. Whatever we can do together to get this closed, I'd appreciate the help. Thank you very much.
Let me ask you this. What's Wildlife and Fisheries' position on this if they monitoring the system?
Wildlife and Fisheries always wants to try and stay out of it. They'll give you the information, but they want to stay apolitical on that.
But, I mean, if it's hurting the industry that they are responsible for, they have no position?
No. Same thing with the freshwater diversions. We can get them to give information, but they're real skeptical on saying what they advise to do. They'll tell you how much damage it's going to make. You know, and then right now we're looking at a small opening in the east part of the state on the oysters, but it's going to be cleaned up in 3 days because you have nothing over here. Everybody's going to hit that 3 days it'll be over with. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. George Cabinet, Chairman of the St. Bernard Parish Council. Just wanted to follow suit with some of the speakers you've already had and to speak to the economic impact that these things are having. Just would request that the Plaquemines Parish Council follow suit with the stringent position against these diversions and the release of the fresh water into our estuary that St. Bernard Parish Council has already done. Mr. Oncolot is exactly right. Zone 1, south and north, is the most productive estuary in the world. In fact, we supply over 50% of the state's oyster production. And what this freshwater impact is having, as Mr. Ricks with the Save Louisiana Coalition had pointed out, that there's been a 73% decrease due to this opening in Mardi Gras Pass. So it would be very beneficial if this council takes a very stringent language tact against this item, even if they're not financing the closure yourselves, because I think we all understand budgetary restrictions that we all face, but to definitely take a position and to let the state realize that the parishes most affected by these, not only Mardi Gras Pass, but future planned diversions are going to have on our estuaries. It would be very beneficial in the fight we're facing with the CPRA and the state. To speak to some of the question you just had about, say, Wildlife and Fisheries stance, keep in mind, again, this is, they're part of the administration, and the administration has been very, very strong-willed when it comes to these large-scale river diversions as part of the master plan, and thankfully we've been able to make an impact in the public dialogue that's been going on about them over the course of the last year through the legislative session. And again, we plan on doing it in the upcoming legislative session when the annual plan goes to committee. So it would be very beneficial if Plaquemines Council would take a stringent stance on this via resolution, again, even if you're not financing the closure yourself.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any further comments on the item? Mr. Lawrence?
Yes, one quick comment was the road that was there that Mardi Gras Pass has cut. Has that road had any upkeep, anything by the parish in the past? It serves other property owners. The road is no longer operable. I'm assuming it's not a public road, or is it?
I think your assumption's correct. It's not a public road.
It's not a public road, but has the parish done anything to maintain that road?
Well, we are prohibited from maintaining private property in that respect.
Well, I know
like
that.
shelling driveways and all. We try to
You're
get
right.
away
Did
from
we
that.
do it?
But I think it's a private road, and
Michael Rodriguez, 143 Reynolds Lane. I worked for Bass Enterprises, and we used to ride that road. We kind of helped keep the grass cut off of it. It was just a dirt road, sand. We throw rocks where we need it because we could drive all the way down to Cox Bay at the time. But yes, this thing needs to be shut. It's hurting not only commercial, our sport fishermen, it's hurting tax dollars. you know, and I know y'all are tight for money right now, but maybe the federal government could step in and help, you know, or wherever we need to get this money from. We taking all these rocks off of the river batcher right now. Those could be just dumped into that thing, whatever needs to be done. We stockpile them behind the old, our burnt down courthouse right now, because the Corps of Engineers give them to us. But yes, this thing, it does need to be shut. All these guys that's been up here are correct. You know, it's hurting everything. I'm not a commercial fisherman, but I do a lot of sports fishing. And it's, at one time in November, you go back there, you couldn't hardly get in that marina with the trucks. We had boats coming all the way from Texas, from the west, you know, and, you know, they were paying tax dollars. They were buying fuel. They were buying stuff from the Beshels, you know, so something needs to be done with this. And why not try to contact the Oyster Division with the Wildlife and Fisheries, see if we can get a spokesman here at one of the meetings maybe and try to talk on this, because I know they research it all the time, just like they were saying. Thank y'all.
Thank you. Any further comments? None. Councilman Bartholomew, you have
yes.
something?
I'd just like to say this. Way of life in a community has been destroyed. We used to, in the month of September, 7+ trailer loads of oysters used to leave out of this community. And now you have 0. Not only that, you had an opportunity to employ young people. Used to go down there and work, young men and school-age students, children. No more. Communities to support their family in the oyster industry. No more. The only thing that's left, just as that gentleman stated, was the money that BP had sent in to compensate. And that's about to run out. So what will happen? Where will we be when that runs out to continue to help families in this region, in this area? So all I'm asking today, I understand the budget. I'm quite aware of the budget. I suffered to the budget, been removed from the budget, and everything else. But my question is that we need to support the unanimous support of this council to go on record to tell the state of Louisiana, we want you to help us restore a way of life, to bring the oyster industry back to Plaquemines Parish, especially on the East Bank, the way it used to be in abundance, so that all the oyster fishermen in the state of Louisiana can benefit, and also the wildlife and fisheries will benefit through its taxation of the tags and everything else that it employs on the oyster industry. So it's just not the community, the state itself is losing money as well. With that said, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to seek a suspension to take up an item that's not on the agenda today at this time.
Secretary, read the resolution. You have it.
A resolution expressing the sense of the Plaquemines Parish Council that it is in the best interest of the people of this parish and the state to close Mardi Gras Pass.
So offered.
First of all, is there any objection to suspension of the rules for this action? Hearing none, the rule stands suspended. Councilman Bartholomew.
Offer as read.
Councilman Bartholomew offers the previous resolution. Any comments? Is there a second?
I'll second.
I'd like to ask for a unanimous second if possible.
Second.
Unanimous second. Any objection to an unanimous second? Hearing none. Councilman Bartholomew. Call a question.
Call a question.
Machine is open. And the resolution is adopted 9-0.
Thank my colleagues very much.
Thank you.
Should I do mine? Okay.
Next item, anybody else have anything they want to move to? That will move to building permits, construction. Yes, please.
Item 4A1, Swift Energy Operating LLC, application number 2014-5728, dated September 12, 2014.
1 second.
Bob, if you would,
Edgecombe.
I would like to pull out, before you read them, since I'm reading them, pull out 1, 3, 5, 7, 8. Pull them out on the side, please. I'm going to defer those today.
Mr.
Okay,
Chair.
so item 4A1 will be deferred.
1, 3,
4A3 deferred,
5.
4A5 deferred, 4A7 deferred, and 4A8 deferred.
Yes, sir.
Any others?
Mr. Chairman, I have some concerns in 4, 6, 9, 11, and 14.
You want those deferred?
Unless one can give me some answers today on those, whether or not they'll have an impact on our lands, because we know we're trying to deal with the restoration of the lands we already have, and a lot of these activities calls for drilling and not drilling, digging.
That's part of the reason for mine also,
Yeah.
sir.
So, if possible, we'll just defer it now, just get with the administration.
All right, the items that are deferred are 4A1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 11, and 14. Any other deferrals under this item? Being none, you want to read the rest of them, Ms. Marcotte?
Sure, give me just 1 second.
Sure. Councilman Edgecombe, you are part of number 13 as well, already seconded it. Do you have a problem with that one?
And
No, sir, I'm good
4A2?
with that one. I'm good with 13.
Okay,
4A2, is that deferred?
correct. No, ma'am.
Read it.
Move to 4A2, yes.
Item 4A2, LLOG Exploration Company, LLC. Application number 2014-5793 dated October 1, 2014, to install production platform and walkway, main pass area revised, block 25. Item 4A6, LLOG.
6 will be deferred.
Oh, sorry.
6 is deferred.
We'll go to 10.
Item 4A10, Apache Corporation, application number 2015-110, dated February 3rd, 2015, to replace existing 4-inch flow line, South Pass 24 field. Item 4A12, Century Exploration, New Orleans, LLC, application number 2015-119, dated February 4, 2015, to drill the Pegasus Project and install caisson sleeve structure, Breton Sound, Block 34. Item 4A13, Plains All-American Pipeline, LP, application number 2015-154, dated February 2, 2015, to conduct 8 anomaly repairs along an existing 8-inch BOA pipeline. 2 repairs, areas 7 and 8, are located in Plaquemines Parish Alliance Refinery area. Item 4A15, Leaf Environmental LLC, application number 2015-160, dated February 9, 2015, to drill 14 to 20 soil borings, 219 WPA Road, Belle Chase, Louisiana.
At this time, I'll move to approve items number 4A2, 10, 12, 13, and 15 in globo. Do I have a second? Second by Councilman Burt. Any comments or discussion on any of those? Hearing none, the machine is open. And the permits are approved 8-1 extension. Councilmember Bo Black abstaining. We move to item B.
Bristow US LLC, application number 2015-113, dated February 3rd, 2015, for Third Trailer Residence, 104 Dennis Lane, Boothville, Louisiana.
Councilmember Williams.
Yes, this is just to provide additional housing for the employees of Bristow. It's a helicopter heliport in the Venice area. They have additional personnel coming on, and they just need some more room to house them.
Councilman Williams
offer.
offers. Is there a second?
Yes.
Second by Councilman Edgecombe. Any comments or discussion on the item? Questions being none, machine is open. And the permit is approved 9-0. Move to item introductions and ordinance. Item 5, Councilmember Bartholomew.
ordinance authorizes the parish president to purchase a 1.69 acre tract of land and a 1.36 acre tract of land from Norfolk Southern Corporation located in Section 4 and 5 Township South Range 13 East in Plaquemines Parish and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance to amend the 2005 Public Health Fund Manpower Structure Ambulance General Department otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance to amend the 5-year capital improvement plan by transferring funds from the East Bank Library project to the new courthouse project, otherwise to provide respect thereto. An ordinance to amend as amended and readopt section 17.5-2 of the Code of Ordinance entitled Fees and Usage of Plaquemines Parish Facility and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Councilmember Black?
None.
Councilman Lapine?
I have a few. An ordinance appropriating funds for Plaquemines Parish Day at the Louisiana Legislature to be held on April 29, 2015, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance to amend the 5-year capital improvement plans by appropriating $2,215,400 from the Corps of Engineers for the acquisition of the LERDs, lands, easement, right-of-ways, and relocation of disposable sites for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers NOV Storm Protection Levee project from Oakville to Venice, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. A resolution authorizing the parish president to offer 20% discount to all the persons owing delinquent rental payments on boat slip and Plaquemines Parish government harbors and marines if paid full within 30 days of the announcement of this limited amnesty. That's all, sir.
Councilman Gino?
No, I don't have any.
I have a couple. An ordinance to amend the 2015 manpower structure and otherwise provide with respect thereto. An ordinance to amend the 2015 5-year capital improvements plan and otherwise provide with respect thereto. And an ordinance to amend the 2015 operating budget, various funds, various departments, various line items, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. And that's all I have at this time.
I have several, Mr. Chairman. A resolution urging President Barack Obama to repeal the executive order establishing a federal flood risk management standard and a process for further soliciting and considering stakeholder input and requesting Senators David Vitter, Bill Cassidy, and Representative Steve Scalise and the entire Louisiana federal delegation to encourage the repeal of and prohibit funding for said executive order and to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance to amend the 5-year capital improvements plan for the Peter Road Extension Bypass and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. A resolution requesting the parish president to contact the State of Louisiana Department of Transportation for a current structural integrity safety study of the Belle Chase Tunnel and to advise this government of its status within 30 days upon receipt of this resolution and otherwise to. Mr. Chairman. An ordinance amending and restating section 14-154 of ordinance number 98-117, such section currently and to remain entitled How Penalties Recoverable, Remission, or Waiver of Penalty Interest, and to further add language requiring the recommendation to and approval by the Plaquemines Parish Council for this remission and or waiver of penalties and or interest or delinquent taxes prior to the collector as defined therein, granting such remission or waiver and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. That is all, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Councilman Salvat?
The Port Sulphur Volunteer Fire Department is requesting a 3-day special event and liquor permit for the annual fair beginning May 8, 2015 at 5 p.m. through May 10, 2015 at 9 o'clock p.m. to be held at 2518 Diamond Road, Port Sulphur, Louisiana.
Thank you. Councilman Hitchcock?
Yes, sir. I have two. An ordinance to amend your 5-year capital improvements plans for the coastal bird habitat islands in the Barataria Basin, Cat Island East and West project, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Also, an ordinance authorizing and directing parish president to have the administration take all the necessary steps to institute across the board increase in the in the fees for water, sewage, and solid waste collection, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. That's all I have, sir.
Thank you. Councilmember Williams.
I have two. An ordinance to amend the 2015 General Fund Manpower Structure Ferry Department and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance approving a plan of re-subdivision of Lot B-1A, Buras, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, into lots B-1C and B-1D, Buras, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, as shown on the plans and plat of survey by Dufran Surveying and Engineering, Incorporated, dated February 17, 2004, the owner having fulfilled all the requirements of the subdivision and re-subdivision ordinance of the Parish of Plaquemines without cost to the Plaquemines Parish government or the Parish of Plaquemines, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Is that it? Any other introductions or ordinance or resolutions? Hearing none, it's been requested that we move back to beer and liquor license. Councilmember Salvo.
Special event permit for the Port Sulphur Volunteer Fire Department is requesting a 3-day special event liquor license for their annual fair beginning on May 8, 2015 at 5:00 p.m. through May 10, 2015 at 9:00 to be held at the Diamond River Road, Port Sulphur, Louisiana. Thank you.
Councilman Salvant offers that. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Edgecombe. Any comments or discussion on the liquor permit for the 3-day event? None. Machine is open. And the permit is approved 9-0. Move to item 6, ordinances and resolutions on second reading and final passage.
Mr. President?
Yes.
May we revert back, move to item 7D?
It's been requested that we move to item 7D.
Update by administration on borrow pit collection fees.
Okay, as many of you all know, Mr. President, we have been having a lot of issues surrounding the borrow pit collection and borrow pit issues. It's been a major problem, especially in my area. So there was a gentleman that called my office. He was supposed to come before the council at the last council meeting, but there was some confusion with the timing and the location of the council meeting. But he asked me to place him on the agenda to bring forth some information that probably would be crucial to us moving forward with the borrow pit collection. Mr. Barry Callaghan.
Barry Colligan, 31975 Highway 23 in Narren. I want to thank Ms. Audrey for getting this on the agenda to speak. I know it's been a hot item for us for at least 8 years now. Ms. Barbara has a packet for each one of the council members, administration, and attorney. And while she's doing that, I will say that I apologize that I intended to have an index in that packet with it explaining some of the items in it due to a serious illness in our family right now that we're dealing with. I just didn't have the time to complete it. But if all of you, when you open this package up, read it as presented. They are dated and timed on each document to help you further understand the history. Hopefully it'll be an educational trip and a historical one at the end. The first 5 documents in that packet, you need to especially pay attention to the dates and the times in which they are recorded in the clerk of court's office. I don't have enough time, nor do I think this council will let me go into great detail on any of this, but I would like to go ahead, since Mr. Metcalf is here, to discuss some of those issues that been brought up especially during the council meeting on September the 12th, 2013, in regards to variance, the ordinance on the borrow pits, and also one permit, Plaquemines Dirt and Clay, on their $1,000 permit compared to $10,000 on everybody else's. And on that, I would also, I'd like to say that in your packet there's going to be an agenda for about 6 or 7 pages in which Mr. Marinovich at the time was trying to get sales tax records on these borrow pits, on all borrow pits in the parish, and met with great resistance, even from his own council members and administration. They finally produced an AG opinion as to why they weren't entitled to it, even though the council has authority, subpoena of power to recover these documents. And one of the things that was said in that AG opinion, that even though they did agree that some aspects of permitting or occupational license were not permitted, they did state that it is the public's right, you know, to be informed, you know, on existing issues. And they cited Plaquemines Parish Commission Council, Delta Development, which was, most people in here would know that that was the Perez property. As to that argument, the people's right to be informed and know on an existing issue. As far as the Plaquemines Dirt and Clay permit, and the reason they got a $1,000 fee instead of the $10,000 fee was stated by Mr. Rathburn at the time, which I was hoping he would be here, but due to his no longer being employed, he stated that as long as they didn't exceed the footprint of the borrow pits, and due to their variance they got, they weren't subject to 10,000. Once they moved out of that existing footprint, then they would be subject to all aspects, my understanding of it. Mr. Metcalf might be able to help us out on that. But if you look at the permit itself, it states that they got not, even though everything on it says a borrow pit, they're excavating a borrow pit, they've got an all-field construction permit for $1,000. So I have great concerns and questions in regards to that, and so should you. And I'm sure some of the people in this audience will be interested in that aspect of it. And in regards to the ordinance, you'll find on the front, stapled to that ordinance number 12-238, Mr. Rathburn produced an email that he gotten from the Supreme Court decision on our borrow pits back in 2012, before this ordinance was produced and established as law, I guess now. My question in regards to that, since the Supreme Court found that that document, our original borrow pit ordinance, was not unconstitutional, and that our original borrow pit ordinance was now the standing for borrow pits in the future. So my question in regards, after reviewing that, is, was this new ordinance ruled by any judge to be constitutional or unconstitutional when it was passed and agreed to by the council? This is something that we need to know. We may still have an ordinance that is unconstitutional without fully review of it. And I think it's a good question for the legal team to answer that. And I have as far as the variance goes, and this ordinance pre-existing right now, in my opinion, for the benefit of attorneys in here, I find it to be accommodating rather than regulating. Once again, it's my opinion of both the borrow pit ordinance and the variance. It seems to state one thing in one part of it and then take it away in another part. And with that, I'll conclude with my part of it. Ms. Michelle Wilcox will give another part of it as far as borrow pits and some government information that was gotten off the website. And I'd like to add that this information provided to the council and the administration today is free of charge to you and the parish residents.
Thank you, Mr. Collier.
Thank you.
Hello, Michelle Wilcox, 112 Hunt Street. I don't have packets for everybody. I actually have a packet for the president, and I also put it on a jump drive so it can be viewed up there as I'm going through it. While they get it ready, sit here and listen. We all in a budget crunch. We don't have any money, and we've been filing the borrow pits for the last 8 years. We put some things together on the borrow pits. I've done a lot of research on them, and through the Corps of Engineers, as well as following what's went on in the parish. Borrow pit presentation. I'll go ahead and start, and they can get up. The past with the borrow pits, I'm not sure if everyone is aware, but we have 18 known borrow pits in Plaquemines Parish. That is it right there. Okay. You can scroll up. Okay. The Corps of Engineers provides a list of proposed approved borrow pits. 18 of them are in Plaquemines Parish. They're in 2 divisions. They're government proposed, and there's contract proposed borrow from each one. In 2007, the Corps decided that to rebuild the 100-year levee protection, that we needed over 100 million cubic yards of borrow to build up to our levee system, to the 100-year protection. A map of the borrow pits is provided by the Corps of Engineers. It has an IER report, which is the individual environmental report, that shows exactly how much land comes with each borrow pit, how much they determine that the borrow is going to be dug out of that specific pit, whether it's approved, who can buy it, and how much it costs. What the Corps doesn't put out is the price of it, because it depends on the owner of the pit and who they're selling it to. So I think Blair had said that, Rittner said that it was around about $10 cubic yard. However, we called 4 or 5 different pits, and I came up with about 12 as being the middle of the line. So this, you can scroll up. This next slide is of the criteria of how borrow pits are selected. Scroll up some more. Okay. That's the criteria on what it's supposed to be based on with the Corps of Engineers, and there is somebody who's supposed to sign off on it. The Corps of Engineers, to get a permit, everyone has to come before the council. They apply for their permit, and then they have to go to the Corps for their borrow pit to be approved. There's 2 reports, an IER 18 and 19 borrow pit proposed sites for Plaquemines, and it tells exactly how many approximate cubic yards that each pit is going to have. So that way the Corps can decide who they're going to buy their clay from, the non-expandable clay. Let's scroll up to... That's one of the IEO reports that for the state that shows which parishes hold the amount of cubic yards that is needed, and then it's broken up by that. Then you can scroll up. The next one is the IER 22 report, which is the number 2 site proposed borrow pits, and it tells the ones in Plaquemines and what each one approximate cubic yards out of those. The first 3 on the top: Bradbury, Chauvin, and Tavenny. Then the next slide shows the contractor furnished proposed borrow sites and how much each one of them project that they'll dig the borrow from in each pit. The parish passed the borrow pit ordinance that states what the requirements are by the parish and the Corps of Engineers for each pit. The cost of the borrow pit permit is on a schedule and is to be paid by every applicant. An assessment of the property is also made by the assessor's office. In PD&C's case, the assessor is part of PD&C. I'm not quite sure that that falls as a conflict, but I'm thinking pretty much it does. The property is determined, the tax base on that property is determined by the property on the permit and what the size and what it's used for. Once all the criteria has been met, then the permit is either granted or not granted. The council next passed an ordinance for professional services to enforce the borrow pit ordinance, of which we're not still sure if it's constitutional or unconstitutional. But they passed Ordinance 1477 and adopted the permit. The council hired to hire a law firm, auditors, and an engineering firm to enforce the ordinance. Myers Engineering firm was contracted. Erickson, Krentel, and Laporte were the auditor firm, and then Dwyer, Cambry, and Suffern was hired as the legal team. I have a problem with that. Mr. Rathburn is an attorney for Dwyer, Cambry, and Suffern, which is a direct conflict, and he was hired at the time. He was employed by the council. I'm not quite sure how they hired him, but for why they did that, because in the charter it clearly states that that is prohibited to hire someone that, when you have someone working on the council that has works for that company. They also, an ordinance was passed or engaged to qualify these professional services, and then it goes on. I'll list the, you can scroll up. I'll list the ordinance itself and all of the sections to it, where they signed off on it, and it was voted for and passed on September 25th, 2014. The council also adopted an ordinance 13176, which amended the general fund for the firefighting fund and the operating revenue budget, line item sales tax and use audits, which brought an additional $4.1 million to the operating revenue budget. This quickly took place by performing a sales tax audit on urgent and crucial need supplies, which was revealed some unintentional underpayment in Plaquemines Parish government portion of the sales tax by BP. So we had an emergency that we had to get them some sales tax, so we passed an ordinance and we got our sales tax from BP. Councilmember Marinovich adopted the following ordinance, and I list the ordinance. And it shows in the chart, you can keep scrolling up, right there, that it was adopted, the $2,062,500 for the general fund and for the firefighter fund. Next, in 2012, we'll go back a little bit, there was a resolution authorizing and directing the Plaquemines Parish Council Attorney's Office and the Council Secretary to prepare and issue a subpoena to the Plaquemines Parish Sales Tax Department. The resolution I have listed, scroll up, please, below, and it was deferred and carried over from the 1/26/12 meeting by Council Marinovich. However, this was never carried out. Below is a list of meetings, you can scroll up, it was still on the agenda. However, it was deferred 4 or 5 times, which means the subpoena never existed, the subpoena was never issued, the subpoena was never carried out. Just as an example of what I'm saying, we all need money, and we have asked if sales tax had been being collected on these borrow pits, so we did some calculations. The Citrus Lands LLC borrow pit has 57 million cubic yards at an average of $10 a price, which I got from Mr. Blair. Per cubic yard, it would be $570 million for the lifetime of the borrow pit. That's the cost. That's what they will make. The total from all 57 million cubic yards for the sales tax rate, of which they owe us 4.75%, to our parish comes up to $27,075,000 in taxes just on that one borrow pit. Okay? One, I want to know where's the money. Okay? And this goes, and I just took 6 different borrow pits. I took Conoco, Citrus Lands, Idlewild, Narren, and of course Plaquemines Dirt and Clay for the borrow pit. So for all, just those that I have calculated right here, it comes to $2 trillion, $420 billion, and 4.75% of that comes up to $114,950,000 that should have been collected in tax over the lifetime of the 5 pits, and we have 18 of them, okay? So now, which brings me to, let's just say for 1 year. 1 year we have, we sell each one, one of them sold 16 million cubic yards at $10 a cubic yard. It's estimated as $160 million a year. That's what they made. The taxes owed on that is $7,600,000 to the Plaquemines Parish. Now, I find it hard to believe that we didn't collect tax on this, but not really. I also find it hard to believe that nobody seems to know, even when a subpoena was issued or said it was going to be issued, that no one stepped forward to produce this document. While these are estimated figures based on the total cubic yards per borrow pit, this is an overwhelming amount of sales tax revenue, and I know Mr. Cormier and this parish need it. The charter prohibits showing the conflict relationship with the law firm hired to execute illegal proceedings for the borrow pit ordinance. That is in the charter. I have both of those listed. You can scroll up, Jennifer. All right. That's okay. Now, underneath there, it brings me to the FEMA grants. I went through the FEMA grants. 2015, February 23rd, just the other day, we were awarded $1.2 million in public assistance funding that covers repairs and replacement of some storm damage components and mitigation measures to protect against future disaster in the following communities. The list of buildings that are on there, All South has already built them. All South has no indemnity clause in their contracts, which means nobody can hold them responsible for any damages. We've paid them once with FEMA money. Now they put out, we get this money, and they put out a list. And all of these buildings have been built by or consulted by All South. They've either been paid to consult, and then they've been paid to sign off on the check. So now we're getting money, and we're going to fix them because they didn't do them. This directly goes to the borrow pit issue because, again, we're looking for money. And half of these grants, most all of them that we have for this parish, you can scroll up, that we got specifically goes to recovery money allocated from the state for Plaquemines Parish, $315 million for federal and non-federal levies, 2005. The state of Louisiana broke up the $725 million they gave to the state, and Plaquemines got the $315 million. Scroll up some more, a little more, right there. 2009, we got $18 million in bonds, which Beshel is the one that adopted that. We received $1,584,000 for flood walls from FEMA. In 2009, we've got capital improvement for the East Bank levee, $2,786,000. In 2013, we had a community block grant for Hurricane Isaac, $16,953, broken down below into 3 categories: recovery money for housing, recovery money for economic development, and infrastructure grant, which infrastructure is the levees, if I'm not mistaken. 2012, $1.4 billion for levees and guaranteed money from the Corps of Engineers, $1,897,780 money received from the Bohemian Spillway owed to Plaquemines Parish. 2014, $32 million for raising the levees. The total assessment comes to $73,200,000,000 in grants. 75% of those are FEMA funded, 25% are state applicant funded. When the disaster reaches a certain criteria, FEMA pays 90%, and the state, we come in and we have to pay back 10% of the catastrophic amount. I think everybody in this room can look around and see that $74 trillion was not spent in this parish to raise levees. Quite frankly, it's an injustice to the East Bank. We have a contractor who was doing a job who walked off, not walked off, but wasn't paid because they claimed they didn't have any money. I would like to know how many people have rode around this parish and can tell me that they see $74 trillion in FEMA grant money that was used. And where's the sales tax at? We, in the audit meeting, we were told that the information had not been given. So I would like to know where it's at. It's 8 years, 10 years of not collecting it. I think it needs to be collected.
Thank you.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Any comments, questions, discussion? Councilman Salvant?
No, I just wanted to give the gentleman the opportunity to express himself as residents of this parish.
Excuse me, if I may, I would like to comment on the variance. On the first part of that variance, it says that it's a one-time partial variance. The last paragraph in that variance, it says that it will be a variance that will continue through the lifetime of the pit. And all of those variants that they got will apply to that. You have that in your packet. And another thing that I think should be mentioned, February 22nd, the records request from the Sheriff's Office on occupational license on Plaquemines Dirt and Clay. I find that once again it says borrow pit on most all of these documents. This is submitted by Mr. Mike Gaffney. It says here, type of business, borrow pit. The next thing it says / pasture, grazing, and agriculture. Now, I don't know of any borrow pit around here that's got cattle on it moving around in their pits. The next thing is that occupational license, once again by Mr. Gaffney. Zoning on it is I-3. The name of the business is Plaquemines Dirt and Clay. Owner is Michael Gaffney. One owner, I think most people in here know that there's at least 7 members of Plaquemines Dirt and Clay. It says here that the site is industrial. Property owner is self. Mr. Gaffney's, I guess, possibly claiming himself as the only person involved in Plaquemines Dirt and Clay. Once again at the bottom, specific use, business activity, borrow pit for grazing and hauling. At least that's what I think it says. And then it says underneath, pasture, grazing, agricultural, animals. And after that is the sales tax clearance on the property where they claim that they are paying all their taxes due, and Ms. Giesel-Saul is agreeing to it. I would like to mention that on the first year of Plaquemines Dirt and Clay operation that was delivered to the sheriff on his occupational license for the previous year. Now, they started in 2008 that I know of. 2009 is the application. They reported they made nothing. Along with that, well, in 2009, they stated 1,413,000. And then in 2010, 5,726. And on 2011, they reported 548,000, 549,000. And once again, each document states that they've paid their taxes. Another issue I have with this is that this property was bought and sold for the same price that Mr. Nungesser was the original owner of it. And he bought it for $1.3-something million. He sold it to Plaquemines Dirt and Clay for the same price. He stated in a Lee Zurich report that you have in there also that why would I sell it to my enemies? You know, he said the land is worth millions. So once again, if you look at the assessment on the property, they're assessing the property at agricultural value, not borrow pit status or industrial. Form Field 59, well, both of them together, comes to a total of $1,332. And that continued till now. So I think it was of great interest to the people of this parish and to this council that these issues, and this is not the only pit that I've seen those kind of things showing. And this is all information that can be picked up easily for $1 a page at the clerk of court's office.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes.
I'll be quick, Mr. Chairman. Two things. One, the misrepresentation of, in the permit, of offering it as a construction, off-field construction permit and not a borrow pit permit, which I was a part of that argument in arguing that they should pay $10,000 like everyone else instead of the $1,000. But then to cover it up by showing it as an off-field construction permit and not a borrow pit permit, even though the council agreed to do it at $1,000, call it what it is. That's a cover-up. You know, that should not have been shown as an off-field construction permit. It's a borrow pit. That's one. On the accounting part, as far as the money that was the sales tax that they said that they have, I guess the money that they've earned, I remember after Gustav and Ike, when Lee Zurich did his story, there was $14.2 million that had been spent. The administration couldn't account for where the money had been taken from. Don Beshel and I had an argument. Don Beshel was saying it was taken out of the pool account because that's what finance was telling him. Now, and I stated that the pool account is not a cash kitty that you can draw from. You still have to be able to show where you took the money from. But what I recall, that time of that $14.2 million, $6 million had been paid for levies. And if I'm not mistaken, the money, the levy material that they were using at the time was Plaquemines dirt and clay. So the numbers aren't seeming to be adding up. Somebody got, of that $14 million, got paid $6 million for levies at the time, right? My assumption, and it is an assumption, is that it's Plaquemines dirt and clay. If it's not Plaquemines dirt and clay, who was it, and did they pay the taxes? But if it was Plaquemines dirt and clay, then did we receive our due share? That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other further comments on this issue?
Blair Rittner, Land Department, Plaquemines Parish Government. The only thing I want to set on the concerning the borrow pits, when any applicant comes in and I'm going to pick a number out of air. Let's say they have 100 acres of permitted area that can be used as borrow pit. Sometimes when they do borings, they have areas that are not suitable. So they may take, and again, I'm not pointing at any specific figure, but let's say 25 acres of that pit is not suitable. When they do the calculations for the total cubic yards, they basing it on 100,000 or 100 acres, you know, of the whole site. So the taxes that she was referring to, you know, you might only, plus with competition, you might have 100,000 acre tract, but they might only excavate 20,000 acres. And to my understanding, they taxed on what is sent out of the pit, not on the whole 100,000 or million yards that they have capable of selling. So I just wanted to clear that because the numbers that was stated is she's calculating the entire pit, not just what's sold.
So let me ask you this. Wait, sit down, please. Let me deal with this.
Yes.
Do you know how many cubic yards have been placed on the levee in the last 8 years?
I mean, I can get it, Mr. Roussel,
So
but
would you
I don't.
provide that to us?
Yes.
And can you match that with the sales tax department to see if the sales tax, this is something that I think that we could do quickly in-house.
Right.
You can provide how many cubic yards were put on the parish levies from the parish borough pits and get with the sales tax department and find out how much sales tax was paid on those cubic yards.
Right.
You know, we'll get to the chase on this. And I don't know if you want, the sales tax department is here to address some of it. Would you like to address some of this? Yes. Come right up.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, the important point to note is that the end user in all these transactions is the government. It's Plaquemines Parish government that is benefiting from the dirt and soil used on these levee projects. So when the end user is the government, it's not a taxable transaction, because otherwise we're going to be hurting ourselves. We're going to be paying sales tax on what, to ourselves, or the federal government is going to be paying us sales tax to ourselves, and that's going to reduce the amount of money that's set aside for levee protection. So the only sales tax that would be collected off the dirt out of these borough pits would be dirt that is being used by third parties. So if it's not a Plaquemines Parish project or it's not a federal Corps project, those sales tax, yes, need to be looked at, need to be going after. But to suggest that 100% of this dirt is all going to be taxable is false. In fact, probably only 2 to 3% of the entire dirt is going to be a taxable transaction.
And that 2 or 3% would be going where? Off-site, not on a levee?
Would be going to a third party. That's correct.
Then good. Then the requirement of the borough pits on it says they got to backfill the pits if it goes anywhere besides on a federal levy. So this has been an issue that's been brewing for quite a long time. We'll let the sales tax department address it. We may have differences of opinion about third party versus if the contractor buys the dirt from the pit and sells it to the federal government, who should be paying the taxes. And we may all have different opinions on that, but you can address it, please.
Well, it's not a contingent. It's not really a contingency. The parish and the federal government are exempt from paying sales taxes by law. We can't collect sales taxes for the dirt that we sell or give, or however it goes, to the parish or to the federal government if it's used for those projects.
Well, first of all, we're not paying for that. The federal government is paying a contractor. So like I said, we may disagree on this, so let the sales tax department address it.
Geese LaSalle, Plaquemines Parish Government Sales Tax Division. In reference to some comments that was made by Ms. Michelle Wilcox, first of all, our sales tax rate is 4%, not 4.75%. From 2010 back, our sales tax percent was 3%. We are in the process of auditing those borough pit companies, and as soon as we are completed with those audits, it will be determined what information or whatever sales of those borough pits are taxable. If it's found that they are taxable, they will be assessed, and then we will collect on those transactions. As of now, the revised statute 47-1508 prohibits me from giving that information out. That's the Code of Confidentiality that governs the Louisiana Department of Revenue and Taxation and any local political subdivisions. So at this time, I am not at liberty to give you all that information.
Well, let me ask you this. Are you at liberty to give it to the audit committee?
Do we have an audit committee?
Yes, we do.
The audit committee does not audit our sales and use tax collections.
Well,
the audit committee audits our procedures and policies of our sales tax department.
The state statute says the tax collector, and our tax collector is Ms. Geisler-Saul. It doesn't say the local governing body. It doesn't say individual council members. It says the tax collector, and every parish has a designee as their tax collector.
Well, we're not going to belabor this point, but I've had an issue with this for many, many years when the taxing body cannot see some of this information. And, you know, I'm not saying who is right or wrong, but I've had an issue with it for many years. Now, I don't know what kind of credentials the sales tax department has to be able to have all of this information, yet the body that's responsible for it, and especially the audit committee, not being able to look at it. And the way I look at reading some of these documents, that I don't interpret it the same way you interpret it, and lately I have been interpreting a lot different than the legal department, especially the previous legal department. So we have differences of opinion, and if you want to address it, come right on up. Do you want to address it? No, wait, first, yes, you. Are you involved in this?
Well, my name is Patrick Johnson. I'm with the CPA firm Gary W. Lambert Company. We do sales and use taxes for the Plaquemines Parish government. And I guess the only thing that the point that the legal department pointed out is that the majority of the sales that go into these borrow pit projects are directly to the Army Corps of Engineers, and so they're exempt from sales taxes. Some of them are sold to contractors. But it all depends on who takes title and possession of the property and at what point do they take title and possession of the property. Many of the transactions, even if it's sold to a contractor, if it's delivered by the seller outside of jurisdiction, it's not taxable in Plaquemines Parish. It's only taxable where it's delivered. Now, if the contractor comes into the parish and picks it up here, then the transaction is taxable in Plaquemines Parish. So there's different nuances as to when it's taxable, who it's taxable to, and what the situation may be. One of the things that the parish government has asked us to do is to conduct examinations of the actual taxpayers who are going to be the contractors, because the borrow pit companies aren't necessarily the taxpayers. What they're going to do is they're going to collect the taxes from the contractor if the transaction is taxable and remit it. So they basically are acting as an agent for the parish in the collection of the taxes. The actual taxpayer is going to be the contractor. And so if a contract, like Ms. Wilcox mentioned earlier, the Corps of Engineers is very transparent. They put all their contracts up on the website. You can determine where the contract's going to be, where the levy project's going to be, and if a contractor is involved in any type of contract at any type of levy building in Plaquemines Parish, we have either examined them already, or we're in the process of examining them, or we will be examining them in the future. And so any of the materials that are taxable that went into levy projects in Plaquemines Parish, if it wasn't voluntarily remitted by the contractor, it would have been picked up as a deficiency through the audit itself. But that's all I can offer as far as clarification as to what's already been presented.
I guess the confusion is that an individual owns 100 acres of property, and that individual puts that dirt on the market to contractors to come in and do federal projects, and they bid on that dirt, or they make a negotiated price on that dirt. The dirt that comes out of that hole that is sold to that contractor, is it taxable?
Yes, if they come into Plaquemines Parish and pick up the dirt, then it's taxable in Plaquemines Parish.
So the point is that we'd like to know, and I guess you're working towards that end, that how many cubic yards were sold for how many dollars, and how much taxes have they paid?
Right, and what we audit through is the financials. So we're going to be looking at the financial statements to establish the sales price of any of the clay that was sold to any of the contractors, and to ascertain if taxes were paid on any taxable transactions.
So it sounds a little different than what I've been hearing a few minutes ago. So it is potentially taxable if the dirt pit sells to the contractor who provides it to the Corps, it's taxable.
Yes, sir, it is.
Thank you.
And it's a process that all the river parishes are going through right now. And there are, like I mentioned before, some nuances. It depends on where the transaction takes place. I mean, you have, it's point of sale is the
It's like buying a car.
Right, exactly.
You buy it in some other parish, when you register it here, you pay the sales tax here, right?
And you know, I can't speak to the confidentiality of records or anything to that effect, because I'm not an attorney.
I understand.
But I think that you would see that the sales tax office is doing their job as far as sales tax collection, in my opinion.
When are you going to have some conclusion to your work?
As I've worked for you before, Mr. Rousseau, you know that auditing is a process. It's an ongoing process, so it depends on the companies and the amount of cooperation I get from them. But I think we'll have this project done before the end of the year.
Before the end of this year?
Yes, sir, in my opinion.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Yeah, we're going to wrap this up. Okay.
I was not saying that every bit of dirt on the property is what's taxable. I very well know that whatever's dug out of that the Corps approves is what they can tax on. What I was talking about as far as the property taxes of the entire property, they still have to pay property taxes on their property. And I know that PD&C's property tax was only $1,300. My house is $799. I find that hard to believe, but that's just on the property.
I understand. Thank you. Mr. Lawrence.
Warren Lawrence, very short. While you're looking at the sales tax, there's also in that ordinance that they're supposed to be paying 3 cents per ton to an account established for street repairs and damages done by the loads of dirt coming out. And I guess legal will have to say you can't charge that 3 cents per ton to the parish or to the federal government. Well, then I'll just say that the ordinance specifies that it will be charged. I can't find that where it's ever been collected, and I don't know if it's not the responsibility of the sales tax division that is audited, but somebody's got to audit it and find out if they're paying the 3 cents per ton. I question on one pit, the north pit on Woodland, that doesn't have a scale. They're hauling mud out of there, and they're supposed to be paying 3 cents per ton, and there's no scale. How do you calculate what they owe? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, we've collected $45,760.34 with regard to the 3 cents per ton fee, and I just want to make clear that that is a fee. It's not a tax, so that needs to just make sure that we keep that separate. As this council is currently aware, the sort of the borough pit train, as I call it, has been ran by the council and by the council attorney, Mr. Rathburn. These responsibilities have just been handed over to the parish attorney's office. The parish attorney's office is currently reviewing, obviously, the 2012 borough pit ordinance, the previous ordinances, reviewing the 3 different settlement agreements that were made that have been referred to, and working with the permit department and the engineering department to go through file by file by file to see what ordinance is applicable to which borough pit, and therefore make a determination which rules each borough pit has to follow. So I'm not here today going to comment on any particular borough pit other than to say that the parish attorney's office is reviewing each of the applicants to see what rules apply to who. And so we're asking for a little patience from the council. Also, 6V is on the agenda today. That is the funding. Several references have been made to a previous ordinance that's been passed where we were to hire an auditor, an engineer, and a law firm to help us support borough pit enforcement. Okay, that's true. That ordinance was adopted. However, the funding was not put in place. It's my understanding that on the table today is 6V. As soon as the council passes that ordinance today, we will have the source of funding to go ahead and hire the engineering company and the auditing company to start pursuing the borough pit enforcement.
Mr. Chairman?
Wait, one
Yes,
last
Ms.
thing.
Williams.
Excuse me.
So, Mr. Burris, at this time and prior to now, we have no one monitoring this 3% usage fee?
No, it's been up to this point. It's been self-reporting. I mean, the fees are being collected by the fees, the application fees, and the renewal fees have been collected by the permit department. It's also important to note that the ordinance, the actual ordinance that was adopted, said that the responsibility wasn't to fall to the Department of Planning and Zoning. It was to fall to the civil engineer that was supposed to be hired for this tax. And we've just started and the other issue is that this was supposed to be self-funding. And so, in other words, because of the tight budget, we weren't going to exhaust funding to pursue this. But now that we've collected over $100,000 in application fees and also this 3 cent road use fee, we have the funding to go ahead and move forward. So with regard to that, we're complying with, I think it's section 18-93.
Thank you.
But it's important to point out that the ordinance that's up for final passage today will enable us to be the kind of the engineer, our department to be the engineer of the train to push forward at all speed. So that's important. That's Ms. Audrey's ordinance today.
One more question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
So, with that being said, will we be able to go back and evidently we're not going to be able to go back and recoup anything that was missed because no one was monitoring?
No, we'll absolutely be able to go back because the borough pit operators are required by law, are going to be required, and we're going to be looking at their books. They keep books, and we're going to make a determination based on the books, based on the price of which they sold the various goods. We will then be able to calculate how many cubic yards have came out of each pit and make an estimation and make an assessment and therefore hold them accountable. I mean, is it an exact science? No. We're going to be using their books. We're going to be using what they're reporting to the IRS, and we have those authorities based on the borough pit ordinance and then also based on the sales tax ordinances that allow us to do that. So, will we get the exact figure that's owed to us? Probably not, but there are methods and ways to go about and collect what's owed.
Okay, thank you.
So let me ask you this. You're going to convert the cubic yards to tons? Or should we address the ordinance and change the ordinance to comply with what's being done?
I might have misspoke. The 3 cents is per ton, not cubic yard.
And the testimony we had a minute ago, there's no scale there to weigh it, so how are we going to find out what the cubic yards that came out weigh?
Okay, I'm sorry. Yes, we can, we can make a determination what a ton, how much dirt a ton is or how many cubic yards equal a ton.
Okay. Now, one other thing before we leave this subject. You're auditing now. We're hiring another auditing firm. Is that a duplication or overlap, or what's the, you want to come back to, if you want to address that, please? Is that a duplication of effort, or is that separate?
Well, what we audit for is sales and use tax compliance, and I believe what we're talking about here is a separate type of tax. Now, the companies we're auditing are going to be the same companies that whoever you decide to hire is going to have to go audit, and the financial records are going to be the same. I'm not here to make a pitch for business or anything like that, but yeah, we'd be there conducting the sales and use tax examination at that point in time, and it would be very simple to conduct that review also.
So what I would suggest is that, I'm not suggesting that we don't adopt Ms. Salvon's ordinance, but I think that the administration ought to coordinate efforts, and if the ordinance doesn't require, the individual in the ordinance is not needed, and they have the service and they're doing it already, we might want to do it as a thoughtful process. Do you have any other comments? Thank you very much.
We need the ordinance to pass because it also involves engineering fees, and at this time we obviously don't need legal fees, but at a certain point we may need legal outside help if this comes to serious and complicated litigation. But we seriously need to adopt that resolution, otherwise we're not going to be moving forward like we want to move. We're very aware, the legal department's very aware, the engineering department's very much aware of the tight budget constraints, and we know engineers can eat up a ton of money very quickly. So we intend to do very specific direct tasking to both the auditing firm and the engineering firms, so that we don't have engineers roaming around the parish charging us thousands of dollars for stuff that isn't relevant to what we're looking for. So, and we also intend to use our engineering department for as much as possible, so that we can be very specific for the services we're asking for.
I just repeat myself one time.
Yeah, I think the question is, Mr. Chairman, is will we be duplicating services here?
Yeah, that's all I was saying. And once more, I'll repeat myself that I didn't say that we shouldn't pass the ordinance. All I said was that if the administration would coordinate to see if there's a duplication of effort to utilize it, nothing more, nothing less.
And Mr. Chairman, before Mr. Henry speaks, I'd asked Mr. Metcalf to be here today to have total transparency with the permit department, because the 3 cents per ton comes from, I understand, his department, whereas the sales tax comes from Ms. Giesler's department. And I also asked Meyer Engineering to be here. I don't know if they have a representative here today, because I wanted to bring all the parties that were involved in this today so we could have a closure on this particular issue, refuting the statements that were made last week, because they will have the oversight or have some possibility of oversight with these particular items. So I would like to hear from Mr. Metcalf and the Meyer Engineering firm also today after Mr. Henry speaks.
Sure, Mr. Henry.
I just want to thank you, President. Mr. Roussel, you've been around this for a long time, and as far as I'm concerned, the people looking for you to straighten this out, and you can do it. You can do it. I know you can do it. Hey, let's get the people some money. You need some money. You can do it, man. I got that confidence in you.
Thank you, Mr. Henry. Any comment you wanted to comment?
I'll make 2 comments. Hi, I'm Lakeisha Daisy, the Chief Internal Auditor. You can hear me? Okay, thank you. One is, I would agree with Mr. Lambert that is something that their firm can do. It would be, in my opinion, a duplication of efforts if we did hire another firm. And the second thing that I wanted to mention was that as far as confidentiality is concerned, as it relates to the audit committee, technically it may be an issue for the audit committee. However, the revised statute does give the internal auditor and their staff the permission to review sales tax data.
Thank you. So there is a way to review it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Metcalf, or well, yes, one more. We're going to wrap this up shortly. So,
In regards to the external auditor coming in and doing something that the chief internal auditor can do, I have a serious problem with that. I don't know why it can't be done in-house. Once again, I'd say it was a duplication of benefits. You have an employee already capable and trained to do sales tax audit, that's my understanding. So, and the audit committee is autonomous. They don't have to report to the legal department. They don't have to report to the council or the parish president. And that is an AG opinion in which you all have in your packet the last page. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, it's been a request by permit Mr. Metcalf to appear, and next will be Myers Engineers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just like to maybe reiterate what legal has already said. I'm not here to criticize the ordinance. I know y'all kind of inherited it. It was passed before. I think it's workable, though. It's a little hard to understand, a little technical, but it is workable. But it's critical that we plug in those other two pieces that the ordinance calls for. It's very difficult for us to know from our role as the permit office is to, number one, facilitate the permit, and then number two, collect the fees in conjunction with the law firm that is in place. But it's very difficult for us to do that without some form of field monitoring to let us know exactly what the hard and fast figures are for the parameters in which, number one, that the road use tax should be paid. Right now, it's pretty much what they report. It's the honor system, which can't work.
It's a fee, I understand.
And number two, of course, the situation with the parameter and the footprint of the pit, which would be the responsibility of the consulting engineer. So we look forward to getting those pieces in place and tightening this up a lot as we go forward. Thank you.
Can you address the different rate of permit cost as been mentioned for the last several years? One paid $10,000, one paid $1,000 or $900 or whatever it was, and give us an explanation of why the difference is.
The fee schedule it stands now, or
I want you to be as brief as possible and explain why one borough pit paid X amount of dollars and the other borough pits paid $10,000.
Because it's my understanding of this ordinance that those borough pits, and legal can correct me if I'm wrong, but those borough pits that predated the ordinance are under the fee schedule of that old ordinance, and the new ordinance is not applicable. As we sit here today...
Well, before you go any further, the pit that we're talking about specifically wasn't even permitted at the time. So it had to come in after the ordinance was in place and got 2 pages of waivers to be able to do that.
What we have that came in after the ordinance was passed, that Mr. Rathburn has been working with us on under the new ordinance, is four borough pits and one sand pit. Those are the only ones that we have that are applicable to the new ordinance as it was passed, upon the date that it was passed.
And all the other borough pits are under what ordinance?
Well, they could be under the last...
Can't hear you.
Could be under the, sorry about that, could be under the last permit or the one prior to the last permit. I've been here about 8 years, and I can tell you since I've been your building official, there were two ordinances in place prior to the current ordinance that we're dealing with now.
And how many permits for that pit were issued prior to the new ordinance?
The large majority.
No, the particular pit we're talking about.
Which pit?
The pit that had no permit.
Oh, okay.
So
I'm sorry. For clarification, Plaquemines Dirt and Clay?
Yes.
It was the opinion of the legal department at the time that was given to our office that that pit should be granted because of the documentation and information they received, that that pit should be granted grandfathered in status and should be considered prior to the new ordinance. That was the pretty much the marching orders.
And so they got the benefit of the old ordinance rather than complying with the new ordinance because they were in violation of the permit by not having a permit. So, again, you know, for violating the rules, you were rewarded.
As I said, Mr. Chairman, it was our marching orders to consider them grandfathered in at that time.
I'm going to not belabor this anymore. Do we have someone, you can speak, but do we have someone from Meyer Engineers? Yes. All right.
Mr. Chairman, you're correct in that the permit was issued after the new borrow pit ordinance had been passed. And to revert back to a borrow pit ordinance that at the time the council said was unconstitutional is crazy. You're 100% correct, Mr. Chairman. This was done after the new borrow pit ordinance was in place, and it should have followed the new rates.
And so why they didn't pay the same amount? You're going to blame it on the legal department. I understand. That's
well,
good.
I can only tell you what I received as instructions to the pit at my level of administration.
There are settlement agreements related to this, and the settlement agreements, Mr. Chairman, you can come in the legal office and read them, are specific about what the requirements are to be made. So there's a specific settlement agreement related to this pit that would dictate the parameters by which they operate through the parish that Mr. Metcalf, you know, is not part of legal, or, you know, that wouldn't be up to him. So we'd invite you to look at the settlement agreement.
So let me ask you, in the settlement agreement, it allows them to pay the lesser fee rather than the $10,000 fee?
I'm still reviewing. There's 3 different settlement agreements, so I'm still reviewing them, and I haven't sorted everything out, but I'd invite you to come in. You can take a look at it, and we can discuss it next week. And if you want to, you know, have it discussed at the next council meeting, that's more than welcome to do so.
Okay, well, we can defer the item and do it again, but we're wasting a lot of time. I'll just ask a simple question. If the settlement agreement allowed them to variance from the permit rate schedule, and I guess we'll find that out when you finish your review. Can we move to...
Can I say something?
Yes, Mr. Juneau.
Mr. Metcalf. Mr. Metcalf.
Yes.
Right here. Were you ordered to change it by higher people that was in your charge, that was over you?
It wasn't that I was ordered to change it. I was ordered to permit it in that fashion.
Okay.
That's a good splitting of the hairs. You know, I'm really tired of the splitting of the hairs, but Mr. Osterland.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the council, Mr. President, administration. My name is Randy Osterland. I'm representing the Meyer Engineers consultant engineering firm on behalf of the Borrow Pit Oversight Committee. I also live at 213 Fort Jackson Street in Belchase, a member of Councilmember Juneau's district. Just to give a brief update on where the engineering facet of this is the contract itself has been issued, but yet there was a meeting a few weeks ago with several of the departments, the Public Works, the engineering, the permits, and it was pretty much established that from the engineering standpoint, we have not been issued the notice to proceed, but when we will answer to Mr. Ken Dugas's direction. At that time, what was pretty much established at the meeting was Mr. Dugas was going to get a list of the borrow pits that he would be concerned about, that would be of most interest for us to do the oversight on, which pertains to 2 different facets. Generally a policing aspect, which would be fencing, posting, potential damage we feel is being done by the vehicular traffic, as well as any other type of engineering studies and geotechnical analysis that may be needed as a result of, for example, if we're told that X numbers of dollars comes out of a pit, can we go look at the size of a hole and determine if that's fair and reasonable? And that, I think it was yourself established and clarified, as well as Mr. Lawrence at the last meeting, that at this time what's going on is fairly autonomous of the engineering aspect. So that's just a brief update on where the status is of the engineering contract. And we're just still awaiting a notice to proceed. We get that from Mr. Ken Dugas. We'll probably have another meeting and start getting into some more nuts and bolts of where we are.
The administration cannot order that until they appropriate the money today.
That's correct, and that's dependent on
but I am happy to hear that the legal department is going to monitor this very diligently on the task orders to make sure that we're going in the right direction.
Yes, sir. We work closely with them.
The new legal department, you better believe it.
And you're correct. It's predicated on Ms. Salvant's ordinance today.
Any further comments or discussion on this item? This has really deserved a lot of attention because it's been a lot of confusion, and I'm hoping that the next time we discuss this item, it'll be in a positive vein of being able to bring some clarity to the issue, because if you go back and look at the history and what has been done, it's really a nightmare in my mind trying to connect the dots, and certain people got treated some way, other people got treated a different way, and at the end of the day, the taxpayer winds up paying. So,
That's correct.
any questions or comments from the table?
No, but I would like to say, Mr. Chairman, I would like to thank Mr. Callaghan and Ms. Wilcox and Ms. Daisy for bringing forth this valuable information. I think it was worthwhile. I think it was very informative, and I just want to thank you for a job well done.
She's not an easy act to follow either.
Thank you. And with saying that, Mr. President, I would like to move, if possible, to move to item number 6V.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I could make a closing comment, we want it to be as transparent as glass today, even though, no pun intended, it might be a pain to some.
Councilman Salvin, what item would you like to move to?
6V.
B?
V as in Victor.
V, I'm sorry. At this time, we'll move to item 6V.
An ordinance to amend the 2015 operating revenue and expenditure budgets, general fund, permits, general department for the revenues and expenses related to the administrative fees for borrow pits and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Councilman Salvin?
Yes. Having listened to all of the information, valuable information, as I just said, that was just offered to this audience, I would like to ask my colleagues to move forward on this legislation, so I call for a vote.
Councilman Salvin offers 6V. Is there a second?
Yes, sir.
Second by Councilmember Edgecombe. Any comments or discussion?
Where the money coming from?
It's coming from the borough pit collection fees that have been allegedly collected or expected to be collected.
Right.
We're creating
So we
a
may not
revenue
have
stream.
it yet.
We have some. We don't have a lot, but we have some. So hopefully you'll go out and earn your money, the people that we hire.
Yeah, I wish them all the support as possible because I need $2 million.
Oh, my God. No further comments or discussion on this item. The machine is open. And the ordinance is adopted 9-0.
Thank you.
Thank you for that lengthy discussion.
Thank you.
We will move back to item 6A1. Councilmember Edgecombe.
Yes, we move forward, please.
An ordinance to amend and amended to readopt Section 4 of Ordinance Number 142, the Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance of Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, as amended in the Comprehensive Zoning District Map, therein adopted by reference and which is paraphrased thereto with reference to application number ZMP 2014-115 dated October 12, 2014.
Councilman Edgecombe offers. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Williams. Any comments or discussion? Yes?
This is basically going from a C2 to an MH. We did have the hearing on it last meeting, and I'd like to move forward.
All right, any further comments or questions? Being none, the machine is open. And the ordinance is adopted 9-0.
Thank you. With that, so we can withdraw E.
This time, Councilman Edgecombe withdraws item E.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
We'll move to item 6A5. Councilmember Black.
Had to move.
An ordinance approving a plan of re-subdivision of property of Parcel 2, Parcel 3, Parcel 4, and Tract B, Hache-Hunt Tract, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, into lots 2A, 2B, 3A, 3B, and 3B1. Hache-Hunt Tract, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, is shown on the plans and plat of survey by Dufresne Surveying and Engineering, Inc., dated August 25, 2014. The owner having fulfilled all of the requirements of the subdivision and re-subdivision ordinance of the Parish of Plaquemines without cost to Plaquemines Parish government or the Parish of Plaquemines, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Okay, it's been offered. Second? Second by Councilmember Lapine. Any comments or discussion? Being none, the machine is open. And the ordinance is adopted 9-0. We'll move to 6A6. Councilmember Williams.
An ordinance approving a plan of re-subdivision of the property of Farrell A. Avis, Larry S. Avis, and Harold M. Avis, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, as shown on map of re-subdivision of Harold Avis property into tracts AV-1, AV-2, and AV-3, Boothville, Louisiana, by Dufresne Surveying and Engineering, Inc., dated August 4, 2014, the owner having fulfilled all the requirements of subdivision and re-subdivision ordinance of the Parish of Plaquemines without cost to Plaquemines Parish government or the Parish of Plaquemines, and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Councilman Williams offers. Is there a second? Yes, sir. Second by Councilmember Edgecombe. Any comments or discussion? Hearing none, machine is open. And the ordinance is adopted 9-0. We'll move to 6AF. F.
An ordinance to amend the 2015 operating budget and the 5-year capital improvements plan, and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
It's been offered by Councilmember Edgecombe, seconded by Councilmember Lapine. Any comments or discussion? Hearing none, machine is open. And the ordinance adopted 9-0. We'll move to item H.
Clarification, was D deferred?
G was deferred?
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we asked, okay, thank you.
No, I'm looking for D.
Oh,
D?
D?
Yeah, D.
D was, I passed over D, but we can move to that
Okay.
item. What I'm going to do is defer item D and move to item T to accommodate the administration and their concerns at this time, but seek an Attorney General's opinion in the future for clarification on this. So at this time, I'll move to item T. No, yeah, T is what we're moving to at this point. D will be deferred.
A resolution adopting a policy wherein the parish attorney and all assistant parish attorneys shall be employed on a full-time basis.
I'll offer next for a second. Second by Councilmember Juneau. Any comments or discussion? Hearing none, machine is open.
Yeah, well, it's clarification. Hold on one second.
Clarification on the resolution is that we're adopting a policy wherein the parish attorney and all the parish attorneys shall be employed on a full-time basis. And
I'm sorry, I just didn't get a chance to get back to myself.
you want to comment on it?
Yeah, we think it's a good resolution. We think it's a good resolution of the discussions we've had on the issue, and we're all in favor of it, and I think it's a good compromise. I really do, honestly do.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks. I just wanted to give.
Thank you for introducing it.
I just wanted to give legal time to make.
Joel?
Yeah,
You want me to introduce you? This is our parish attorney, Mr.
Joel Leffelholtz, I'm the parish attorney. I apologize.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Any comments or discussion on this? Machine is open. And the resolution is adopted 9-0. That'll take us back to item H.
A resolution to appoint the parish president and resident members of the Regional Planning Commission from Plaquemines Parish, and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
I'll offer it with the two names inserted as Scott Morris and Mandrell Pansy. Scott Morris and Mandrell Pansy. This is a resolution appointing resident members of the Regional Planning Commission. Any comments or discussion on the item? I'm sorry. Seconded by Councilmember Lapine. Machine is open. The resolution is adopted 9-0. Move to item I, an ordinance to amend, I'm sorry.
An ordinance to amend the 5-year capital improvements plan for the gear replacement Bell Chase Pump Station #1 project, and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Let me offer it with these changes. I'll turn this one over to Finance so they can give us an explanation on the changes.
Yes, sir. The change here is for the amount on page on line 4. It's going to be changed from $250,000 to $223,141. On line 9, changed from $250,000 to $223,141. On line 10, change is going to be from strikeout from, change it to $100,000 from the Reach C culvert project, and $123,141 from the West Bank Levee, West Ravenna Road to West Pointe Hache project. Those are the changes.
Okay, this time I'll offer, is there a second? Second by Councilmember Burt. Yes, Ms. Salvant.
Mr. Rittner want to come and explain this change that we made so the public can be aware of what happened here?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. At the last council meeting, I had asked to move $100,000 from a project that we had on the West Ravenna to Myrtle Grove levee. We moved it to Reach C. There was still a balance. And I think what we did here is take the remaining balance and moving it to the Bell Chase, what is it, pump station number 1 or 2? I think it's number 1. There's a gearbox. And again, the project that we did is completed. So it was actually leftover funds because we did it in-house. We didn't contract.
That's what I'm looking for here,
Okay.
looking for you to say completed.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Any further comments or discussion on the item?
I just want to ask Tommy, from now on, when we have capital improvement projects like this, are we going to start naming the amount? That would be good policy. Instead of me getting up here all the time and have back for the amount.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we can do that, no problem.
All right.
Okay. Any further comments or discussion on the item? Hearing none, machine is open. And the ordinance is adopted 9-0. At this time, I see that Judge Connor is in the audience, and he has an item on the agenda, and if no objection, I'd like to move to that item, which would be U. I didn't see you sitting back there, Judge. U.
An ordinance to amend the General Fund 2015 Manpower Structure and Operating Expenditure Budget by creating an unclassified secretary/administrator position for Division A of the 25th Judicial District Court and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Thank you, Judge, for appearing today.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me. I appreciate you taking me out of order. Mr. Chairman and all your staff, hello. Know a lot of you. New council members, some of the old council members I served with, congratulations, first time in front of you. And I know you'll do a good job for the parish. I'm asking for an appropriation. It's not going to come out of the general fund, but it's going to come out of the criminal court fund. The need for it is great. The timing, unfortunately, is not the best time in the world because, as I appreciate it, and you guys have got to understand, I've been out of the loop the last 6 years sitting on the bench, and I haven't been as active as I was with the council or the administration. Previous to that, you guys know I was here for 14 years as the council attorney, so I haven't kept track. And just to say, I was shocked to find out what a deficit and budget crunch you guys were in. Was shocking to me, to say the least. But my understanding is that it's been rectified, at least temporarily, pending the oil and gas prices. This project, or what I'm asking you to do, would come from the criminal court fund. And again, as Mr. Cormier said throughout about transparency, I don't want to give you any illusions. Even though it's not coming from the general fund, technically it would be less money that would come back to you at the end of the year from our criminal court fund. Each year we're able to give you a generous amount from the monies we collect to help supplement you at the end of each year that rolls over back into your budget. The position I'm asking for is one I've actually wanted for about 3 or 4 years but didn't act on it because at this time I have 3 employees that are doing that position. my administration position. There is a similar position in Division B, and I know the first thought would be, why don't you try to consolidate the two? You can't, and the reasons are twofold. One, we have the same rules for the judiciary that basically the administration has with the council. It would be like asking either the president to direct a council secretary to do something, or your staff, or vice versa. So the employees from A can't direct B, B can't direct A, vice versa. So that's one reason. The second reason is because the amount of work that is performed would be overwhelming for one person anyway. This person that would come in would basically run the entire office for me. As many of you know, we've made quite a few changes in the judiciary since I've been in office. I'm thankful to the people of Plaquemines that saw fit to elect me to office. I would like to think that I've done an adequate job the last 6 years representing the people of the parish, which includes all the people of the parish on both sides of the river. Also, I'd like to say, just as an aside, I was happy. I had a 2-piece chicken dinner over here at the store on the East Bank, which I just understand opened Friday, at the gas station over there, or the convenience store, which hasn't been the case for some time. So at least we got some progress going on over here. And although it may seem trivial, for me, who had to travel back and forth to Pointe Hache for so many years, it's just nice to see more businesses and things being developed over here. But with that being said, I'm not here to put pressure on you. I know it's a bad time for it. The good news is that I've talked to the individuals involved in this in terms of hiring, and if the budget becomes such at the end of the year or during the year where it can't sustain it, I advise the employee that they may not be there permanently if the situation changes, for the worst. And I'm aware that the last thing you guys want to do is cut budgets that would cause people to lose jobs. But if I advise this person that if this thing is passed, they would be subject to budget restrictions as you guys see fit, and when you guys call the shots on the budget. But I'm asking you to pass it. The criminal court fund is supposed to be for our use and what we deem to be necessary. It's hard to explain to you unless you're on my side of the coin that it is necessary. I just hope you trust me on my word and my reputation and how I run things. I'm pretty frugal on expenses. If you're not aware of this, earlier this year, when I found out at the end of last year that you guys were in a budget crisis, the first thing that I chose to do at that time was I met with every one of my employees, and we did not get a cost of living raise. I denied it for all my employees. I didn't do it for gratitude or anything like that. I was trying to help out, and just an example of some of the things that we do to try to cut the budget. I know Judge Clement did something similar with cost of living. I think he adjusted 2 employees, one that was leaving and one was coming in. So we're trying to work with you guys and do as much as we can to work hand in hand with you. So I'm just here respectfully, first of all, to congratulate you again and welcome you. For one thing, when I walked in, I was with Mr. Vaughn. I saw Hosea Ned. I saw Burkhart Turner, and I saw the gentleman over here and you guys, and I thought I died and went to councilman heaven. I've never seen so many councilmen in one meeting in my life, but I just haven't been here. As you know, this is the first time I've addressed you in my 7 years on the bench. I've never been here before because I do not believe in getting involved in your business because your business is different than mine, and I've never, ever tried to get into what you guys try to do. That's why you guys were elected. So all I'm going to say, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. I'm just here respectfully asking you to make a consideration to help me out in trying to run this office.
Thank you, Judge. Are there any comments or questions?
Yes, I have a comment, not a question, but Mr.
Yes, ma'am.
Judge Connor, I just want to say I just admire you and I respect you for the respect that you've shown to this bench, the same respect that I'm sure that you demand when someone comes before your bench. And I just want to thank you and applaud you for the approach that you came here today.
Oh, I thank you. I accept that, and I thank you coming from you. Thank you very much.
Question? You have a question? You call the question? The question's been called, but I want to thank you also, Judge, for your approach to this. It's enlightening to see a public official step forward and offer cooperating in
Absolutely.
in a crunch time like this, so machine is open.
Mr. Russo, I think you need to fill in the blanks.
Give them to me.
Okay. On 24, 50,950. And on line 25, 50,950.
On line 24, it's either the blank's not necessary, is there some other line item or department it needs to come from? Or is it just unnecessary?
Let's see. Yeah, I think it's fine like that. You could just strike that line 24 and just put the amount in 25.
Okay, I offered with the 950 inserted in those two line items. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Lapine. Any further comments or discussion? Hearing none, the machine is open. And the ordinance is adopted 9-0. We'll move back to J.
An ordinance to amend the 5-year capital improvements plan for the Playground Oakville project and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Councilmember Burt.
I'll offer.
Councilman Burt offers. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilman Salvat.
Just a brief explanation of what this is. Back in 2013, 2014, the playground in Oakville had some bathrooms and a concession stand. That project was funded about $50,000. And in 2014, the bathrooms were replaced at a cost of $46,000, not enough to fund the entire project. So what this does, it transfers $2,300 from a line item budget for portalets that's no longer needed back into the project so we can finish the project. So with that, I'd respect my colleagues to support me on this.
Any further comments or discussion on the item? Hearing none, the machine is open. And the ordinance is adopted 9-0. We'll move to K.
A resolution to rescind, annul, and set aside resolution number 14-110, adopted on April 2, 2014, wherein the priority list pertaining to the parish's long-term recovery plan pursuant to the Community Development Block Grant Disaster Recovery Program was amended by moving monies from the Port Sulphur Library Extension Project to the approved levies Braithwaite to White Ditch Project, and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Councilmember Salvant.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I think it's self-explanatory. That was monies that was originally appropriated for the Port Sulphur Library Extension Project, and the previous administration arbitrarily directed the money from the library to the East Bank Levy Project. Well, yeah, he just parked it there. He didn't really give it to him. He just parked it there. So it was out there in the cloud, and it reverted back to the grant. So what I want to do is just redirect it back to the Port Sulphur Library Extension Fund.
Councilman Salvant offers. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Councilmember Williams. Any comments or discussion on the item?
Yeah, Tommy, just to, Mr. Serpent, just to clarify these funds, can you give a little bit of a further explanation?
I can try. Let's see.
The budget for these funds are in one project. Is a lump sum of 40-something million. They were never broken out into individual projects. So basically, we don't have a breakdown of what projects and how much of a budget is for each one. The grants department would have to give you that.
I mean, I guess my question is this accurate as far as money transferred back and forth? I mean, I just need kind of clarification on that.
We don't have that since there was never an appropriation made to a specific project. We don't have a breakdown of where the funds will move to.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
The money was never put into the project on the East Bank levy. It never was.
Right.
Even though it was taken from the Port Sulphur Library,
That's correct.
When it was taken with that, under that ordinance to do that, but that ordinance never was implemented because the money stayed in the atmosphere somewhere, hiding.
Right.
In the cloud.
But it never was put in the project. Mr. Beauregard, more or less, he was there. He know what happened.
Just a brief history on it, Mr. Roussel. Initially, the parish was given $12 million after Katrina Community Development Block Grant. Another $32 million was added to it, and at that time, we added $2 million for the expansion of the Port Sulphur Library. Well, the state, as you know, Mr. Nungesser didn't want that project to move forward, and the state, in supporting Mr. Nungesser, told the council that if we didn't move the money, we would lose it. In the last-minute maneuver, the day we voted on it, they decided to move it to the levees on the East Bank. And yet, in our meeting that we had December 28th with the state, this council was told that there is no deadline, there is no time limit on it. And in that meeting, when we asked them, where's the money, is it on the project, as Mr. Bartholomew stated, it wasn't even listed on the project, even though this council passed an ordinance to move the money. And again, the council was acting based on the information provided by the state and administration, that is, this was something we had to do, which today, you know, it's a total untruth. And so I appreciate Ms. Salvon in putting it back. The money is definitely there. I think Ms. Nicole pointed out in that meeting, she saw on the bottom of the list that there was a $2 million that wasn't accounted for. And so as to whether or not the money is there, Mr. Chairman, it is there. And I appreciate the council in supporting Ms. Salvant, and I appreciate Ms. Salvant in taking the leadership and the initiative in putting the funding back. Thank you very much.
Any further comments or discussion?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Just further information, and of course the administration is 100% behind obtaining the Port Sulphur Library. Unfortunately, was taken away in the past, but at the present time, the original application was taken away from the state. The time expired as to what we've been told. The $2 million is an extension, and of course you have to have a building before you can have an extension, but we are. In fact, I made a phone call to the state right before our council meeting today to try and get some clarification as to where we might be able to secure the funds. But at the present time, that's the problem that we have. And otherwise, we don't have a building, so it's in jeopardy with the $2 million extension because we don't have a building. The other thing we looked at was trying to extend upon the certain buildings that are already in that vicinity. But again, we are waiting from the state to get those answers. And I might call on legal, I think, to give some other background on it.
Actually, I think the parish president mostly summed it up. The only concern legal has, or the issue legal has, is like the parish president said, we've put Ms. Salvant's proposal before the state. We're waiting to hear back from the state to see if that's a feasible, viable option. And so, you know, my concern is, let's see what, or what I would like to see is let's see what the state says and see if it is a viable option. If we pass a resolution today, my concern is that we're going to be muddying the waters with the LRA projects. The state has already expressed concern considering the back and forth of these LRA projects. So I think that it's the parish president's wish that if the state does come back and says that this is an appropriate use of these funds, that it's a no-brainer, and of course would encourage the council to adopt it. But if the state comes back and says no, then we've passed a resolution, and I think we've muddied the waters even further. And that's the only concern the legal department has.
I concur with that concern, and I would ask Ms. Solomon to possibly defer this until we can get better clarification at the request of the parish president to the state.
My position is that you're just going to further complicating the process by doing so. By hesitating. We know for a fact that these monies was originally for the Port Sulphur extension. You're not going to, we're not at liberty right now to start because of the inaction of the previous administration. You know, that was an injustice done back then. So all we're trying to do is to correct the wrong that was done. We're not going to move forward with anything. We can't move forward because there's not a building. But at least I'm trying to put monies in place to at least direct move toward a Port Sulphur library. I don't see where there's any harm in restoring, correcting a wrong.
Yes, next.
Mr. Chairman, I'm real easy, but you got to come at me right. And this is lame. Because let me tell you something. Every penny that was put forward that we received as grant money, not one project was done. Not one building was done.
That's correct.
Okay? That money was based on a commitment from FEMA that they would make us whole. The library was obligated by FEMA. Now, if the money is no longer there by FEMA, who authorized FEMA to remove the money? It's a completely separate issue. For us to delay this is a stall tactic, and it's unnecessary. There's $2 million for the extension. You don't need the building built. You're not going to build the building and then draw up plans to extend it. That's going to be included in the original design. Now, when this first came up, Chris Osdale was in charge at the time under Paul Rainwater, and Pat Forbes was under him. Chris Osdale was the one who said, meet with Pat Forbes, that it had to be done in conjunction. You can't do it separately. So just because the state moved the money wrongfully, told us wrongfully that we had to move the money, they lied to us. Now, and the council acted on that and moved the money. That didn't give FEMA the authority to remove the project altogether. Now, if that has happened, I want to know by what authority. The community needs to know by what authority. Because the parish president didn't have that authority to do it. It's a legitimate FEMA project. We're talking about the state money, which is the extension, and there's no reason to not move forward on the extension.
So, is the money for the library there, Port Sulphur Library?
The money is not there according to the state. They revoked the application. This is not a stalling tactic by the administration. This was a problem in the past that because of the disagreement that they had with that particular administration, that it was not done. And it seems to me, until I get further information, that the state went ahead and took the money, or FEMA went ahead and revoked the application because there was a time limit on that application. So the state is saying, or FEMA is saying, that they do not have an application in effect right now. There is some money left for the extension. And so that's what we're trying to clarify. But council can do as they wish. We're just giving you the information that's out there as much as we can to try and solve the problem.
So if we move this money for the extension and it sits there and there's no building, then we're going to do and move the money back to something else?
Again, that's up to the wishes of the council.
No,
but at the present time, there is no building for the Port Sulphur Library.
So you won't lose the $2 million by moving it? You won't lose it?
The only thing I was trying to say was how we could piggyback it on and try to go back and get the original application, possibly, so that we could get more money. But that's up to you. I mean, we're just trying to work with you to try and get the building and the extension together, whereas right now you only have the extension money, not the building money. That's my understanding.
You don't have the extension money. That's what was moved. Ms. Salvant is trying to put the extension money back. That's what the legislation is about. Right. The state only controls the extension money. The other money, the building itself, the main building, that's controlled by FEMA, right? So what's on the table today is the extension money, completely separate from FEMA. There are two issues here, right? One, there's no time limit on the state money, which is what they told you. I was in that meeting, that there's no time limit on the state money. The second thing is FEMA. If we're saying that there's a time limit on FEMA dropped the project, then why is it that we have $72 million and willing to negotiate down to $32 million in FEMA projects that haven't been done? If there's a time limit, why just drop the library? Why not drop all the projects?
Well, I don't want to drop the project. I have no problem with going forward with the project. I just want to be certain that we actually have the money and we're not creating an ordinance, like legal said, to muddy the waters.
I can answer that question with all certainty. With all certainty. The state told you that the money is there. Even though it was taken and we passed the ordinance and it was never assigned, the state didn't even reallocate the money. So the money didn't go anywhere, and they told you that there was no time limit on the money. So the money being available is not the issue. The issue is whether or not this governing body is willing to use it to expand the Port Sulphur Library. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I would appreciate that Ms. Salvant's colleagues support this move. Thank you.
Any further comments or discussion on the item?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, we're willing to go along with Ms. Salvant. The only problem, again, is that whether or not you have the original money, which doesn't appear to be there, and you've gone 8 years without a library. A couple of more weeks until the next council meeting seems like it might be in order to me, but again, we'll acquiesce with Ms. Salvant's decision on which direction she wants to go in until we get all the information.
I don't see any harm. I don't see any harm in supporting my position. At least just give me something to build upon. You know, that was a wrong. It was wrong, and I'm almost thinking that I'm going to be it's going to be double jeopardy here. That the same thing happened to the previous council person is about to happen to me. I mean, what harm will this do? By passing this legislation, tell me the harm that it will do.
What it seems to me is that the resolution is to rescind, annul, and set aside a resolution from 14-110, which evidently moves some money to a levy project that never got there.
Right.
And so,
Yeah, my only point is to clear up and make sure that we're getting conflicting reports here. And until we get everything settled, I mean, I want the Port Suffolk Library more than anybody else, as much as Ms. Salvant, as much as Mr. Turner. I don't want to give you any false information. I'm just giving you the information which seems to be conflicting from the discussions here today.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Badawi?
Is it any way possible that can be cleared up by the next council meeting?
I would think so. Again, we were waiting for a report from the state today. Rowdy Gode is the guy that I tried to get in touch with this morning to speak with him. And I have some other information that I would be glad to give to Ms. Salvant and Mr. Turner and anyone else that wants to look at it, bring it up to date.
So if we go on and pass the resolution, we're just voiding the previous transfer of funds and putting it back to where it's supposed to be. Not saying that it is, but just say we're canceling the resolution or the ordinance that took the money from the project.
So that never got there.
Could we just cancel that?
And that's what we're doing.
You're moving the money to a project that we're not clear that the state will approve, and that's why the parish president called the state, was to find out. And that's all we want. We want to know from the state that this project will be something that could be approved and is a viable project from the state. So that's the issue. That's why we made the phone call to find that out.
Mr. Beers, my position still stands. What harm is it going to do? The name you just called, Mr. Cormier, resonates with me. This the guy that was eating out Mr. Nungesser's hand.
Well,
I'm going to be honest, and that's all I want to say to it.
The way I'm reading this is that we are rescinding, annulling, and set aside a resolution that moved money from the project to a levy project to where the money never got to. So what we are doing is removing the money, or at least the transfer to the levy project that never happened. Is that correct?
Right.
So in that case, it goes back to where? To original intent?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman. It goes back to the library. And, you know, this is a project that the state had already approved. The state had already approved it, and in the meeting that we had on December 28th or the 29th, Mr. Pat Forbes said, because I made the statement that the money needs to be put back, and Mr. Forbes said it's up to the council, right? There's nothing changed between yesterday and today. The same criteria that they used to approve it yesterday is valid today. And as you stated, Mr. Chairman, again, the money was there. It got transferred via legislation, but the state didn't do anything with it. The money is still available. So it's not an issue as to whether or not the money is available. It's there. It's putting it back to the project that it was initially assigned to. So to say that we don't know if the state is going to approve the project, the state already approved it, and it's waiting on action from the council.
Again, the administration just wants to get not only the $2 million, but the original application money, to get all of the total money back. But Again, we're willing to work with you in whichever direction you want. This money today is not the original application money. This is the extension money.
It's two
that
separate
you're going
issues.
to vote on.
Right,
It's
I
two
understand
separate
that, and
issues. One is FEMA, this one is the state.
Councilmember
Where's the
Dowd.
original money for the original building?
That's separate, that's FEMA, that's on the FEMA side. I met with FEMA, I believe it was in 2013, and they said the money wasn't moved. The day that we voted to move the money for the extension, two separate items, Mr. Palazzo clearly stated that FEMA money is still there. That hasn't been touched, right? So if the state removed it, that's something we, if not the state, if FEMA removed that portion, that's something that can be put back, because we did lose the building. It's a legitimate cost, and FEMA isn't canceling all of the federal projects. If they would be canceling all of the federal projects, we wouldn't be talking about the 32 million. I think it was like 70-something million, looking to negotiate down to 32 million in FEMA projects. Those projects we're still arguing over. So we're willing to drop the library from the FEMA project, but not all these other projects. But that is two separate issues. Let's not get them confused. This one, what Ms. Salvon has on the table, is putting the money back to where it was taken, from where it was taken and moved to, and the state didn't act on that move. They just didn't want the library to go forward. Rowdy Gode was doing the bidding of Billy Nungus and Benny Puckett. When I met with Rowdy Gode and Benny Puckett, Rowdy Gode wanted me to move the $2 million to the government complex. I said, that's not going to happen. So when we held the meeting to vote on it, at the last minute, that morning, they shifted it to the East Bank Library because they thought they could sell it. And they sold it. So it was never whether or not it was a matter of it being a valid project. They didn't want the library to go forward. Rowdy Gode was the one who's pushing it on behalf of Pat Forbes, and that's the same guy who's talking to you today.
All right.
Do we have a copy of Resolution 14-110?
Sure. I don't have a copy with me.
Yeah.
It's obvious that this is not going to be settled today. You know, why don't y'all get together and talk about it in another type of meeting?
We don't know that till we turn the lights on.
Sorry?
We don't know that till we turn the lights on,
Amen.
whether it's going to be settled or not.
My question is still on the table. Do we have a copy of Resolution 14-110 so the members can review? It's not attached to the current resolution that's on the table. I just want to see, Ms. Sullivan. I have no problem supporting your resolution. I just want to be clear, and I'm really taking the advice of the parish president and administration on wanting to defer to this so we can get some clarity before we move on this. Do we have a copy of that resolution from 14-110?
I do not have a copy of the resolution, but apart from the definition and the language here, I mean, what more you need? It's strictly, simply saying that they're rescinding the ordinance, whatever. It clearly states what we're attempting to do.
I just don't know what the resolution says. I just want to be clear.
Actually, even more importantly, you need the ordinance before 14-110, because 14-110 was an amendment of a previous ordinance. So actually, you're going to be rescinding 14.110, which amended a previous ordinance, and that's the ordinance you actually really need to look at, because that's what you're ultimately going to be reverting back to.
First of all, we're not dealing with ordinances, we're dealing with resolutions. And the resolutions are a lot different, but proceed.
Your first whereas, excuse me, Mr. President, but your first whereas, I think sums it all up.
I can tell you one thing. The maze and the web that has been woven around this place is unbelievable to me. And I want to ask the administration for us to get that meeting together with All South and sit down with these guys and do whatever we got to do to try to unwind this maze, because it's no sense in coming to these meetings and go through these long discussions about things that our finance department can't answer because All South has them all tied up.
Hence my confusion.
Mr. Chairman, I have the resolution here.
Good.
This was in the materials that I wanted to present to Ms. Salvant and anyone else afterwards. A resolution to revise, this is resolution number 14-110, a resolution to revise the priority list pertaining to the parish's long-term recovery plan pursuant to the Community Development Block Grant Disaster Recovery Program by moving monies from the Port Suffolk Library Extension Project to the approved levies, Braithwaite to White Ditch Project, and otherwise to respect thereto.
And that's it?
That's the resolution.
So that's your first whereas.
Go ahead.
I just want to say, we all sitting here, but we all know that was an injustice done here. Mr. Turner was right. That was an injustice did here. Let's clarify the injustice. Please, come on. That was an injustice did here.
At the request of Mr. Ragus, the question's been called. And the machine is open. Councilmember Black is present and not voting. And the resolution is adopted 6-1 and 1 abstention. Thank you, gentlemen and ladies. Let's move forward.
Thank you, guys.
Next, we move to item P.
An ordinance to amend the General Fund 2015 Manpower Structure and Operating Expenditure Budget by creating and funding an unclassified Director of Recreation position and by transferring the duties and functions for general management and control over all matters related to recreation facilities, parks, and monuments from the Director of Public Service to the Director of Recreation and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Yeah, moved. I forgot it.
I'll offer as read.
Councilmember Burt offers. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilmember Black. Any comments or discussion on this item?
Yeah, I just need some clarity about the, we're moving to, Mr. Burt, we're going to a director, adding another director to the manpower. I mean, doesn't the charter say that there's only 3 directors that's appointed that falls under the authority of the president? Are we going to be changing this position every 4 years? This person going to have to consider his job every 4 years?
This is not an executive director position, and this position is no different than any of the other directors that's sitting right there right now.
Yeah, the job is on the line every 4 years.
Correct. Basically, what this ordinance does is it defunds the superintendent of recreation position, creates a director of recreation position, and it also will remove recreation from the director of public service and creating its own division, Parks and Recreation. I think most of us that are actually up here that we ran on a platform for creating a better and more efficient recreation department. This is nothing against Mr. Giles. Quite frankly, it's nothing against the last director. We have over 976 kids in this parish that play recreation. In my opinion, and I think some of my colleagues will support me, we need somebody that is dedicated 100% to recreation. We need to eliminate a few layers of supervision in there where we can put somebody in there that can oversee, that can forecast, and that can manage a budget and get our recreation department back up to par where it was years ago under Mr. Ray Saez. So that's my position on this, and I'll answer any other questions.
Any further comments or discussion on the item?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I think we're trying to circumvent by adding another director position. And I think we just got a new administration in place. And I think they need to have an opportunity to go on and do what they need to do to get it straight. And I think if we don't give them the consideration, then we need not have a director. And just eliminate the whole process and just appoint people to do certain things. Because this is not following the nature of the charter. And I just can't support that. And the other thing is that we're in a deficit. We're in a spending mode. We have problems with money as it is. And I just cannot understand we're going over the administration, especially the past president team, to make that decision. Because no matter what we say, we're taking that away from them.
Let me clear that up, Mr. Bartholomew.
Wait a minute, please. if you don't mind?
Absolutely.
All right. The thing is that we have to give them chance to implement the program that they ran on, as well as each council member here about improving the recreational program. And this legislation is denying that. That's just my opinion. It's not nobody else's, it's me. And I cannot, at this time, vote for such legislation.
Mr. Burke.
Let me clear that up real quick. This is not just my legislation. We have talked to the administration, specific the parish president, on this. And it will not be any additional funding coming to fund this position. The funding is within the budget as it is today.
So Mr. Burke, will this be an appointment by the president?
Yes, ma'am. This position will be appointed by the parish president.
So do we have anybody in mind that's already been considered?
There's several names floating around. If anybody has any recommendations, please send them to the parish president's office.
Mr. Chairman, did Mr. Burgess finish? Completed?
Yes.
Yes, Mr.
Mr. Parish President, are you concurring with the change?
Yeah, I've spoken with several of the council members that were not in favor of the recreation department going in the direction it was going in. And so what I would hope to achieve here, as I've done with every other decision, I would hope to achieve a consensus of the council as to who they would like, so we can get an approval from all parts of the parish as to who would lead the recreation department in the future.
Are you in favor of the legislation?
I have no objection to the legislation.
So you're in favor of it, okay.
Yes. Continue, Councilman Batali.
I'm finished.
Councilman
I am finished.
Turner.
Mr. Chairman, I agree wholeheartedly with Mr. Bartholomew that we do have a structure in place. We do have 3 directors. We have a superintendent. What this will do is this will circumvent civil service. And then, so we'll make that person at will employee, so we can, it will become real easy for this position to be used to repay favors. If you remember, just in the recent campaign, one of the candidates ran on that he was going to hire so-and-so to be over recreation. And so what that does is this legislation circumvents civil service. We're going to go eventually evolve back into the old way. We're just going to decide which positions are we going to end up making them all unclassified, the leadership positions, or is it just this one? You have directors. If you don't have a capable superintendent, then you address that superintendent. The position is already there to supervise and to lead. If the superintendent of schools isn't doing his job, they're not going to create another position and call him a director. They already have a structure in place. It's a superintendent. We have a director, and there's a superintendent under that director to give you some accountability, a layer between the president. So the structure is already in place. To make this unclassified would be to circumvent civil service.
I'll address that real quick. This current process has been in place for many years, and the recreation system is still not functioning the way it should be functioning. I'll call the question, Mr. President.
Question's been called. Undebatable item. Machine is open. Question's been called. Undebatable after that motion. Thank you. Machine is open. And it's 7-2. Item is passed. We'll revert back to item M. I inadvertently passed over that.
An ordinance to amend the 5-year capital improvements plan for the Highway 15 repairs project and otherwise provide with... Okay.
M, did I say N?
I thought you did. My
I'm
apologies.
still stuck on recreation.
A resolution authorizing and directing the parish president to have the administration install Highway 15 signs and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Councilmember Bartholomew.
Those are the sign that was left, that wasn't put back up after the construction of the highway in Phoenix area. And the...
Do we have a second? I'll second.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, I'll second.
They were never placed back, and that's all I'm asking, that they put them back up.
Okay, any comments or discussion on the item? Hearing none, machine is open. And the resolution adopted 9-0. Move to item number R.
An ordinance to rescind, annul, and set aside ordinance number 14-86 adopted April 24, 2014, and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Councilmember Juneau. He offers it. Second by Councilmember Lapine. Any comments or discussion on the item? Hearing none, machine is open. Resolution, the ordinance is adopted 9-0. Move to item number S.
A resolution urging the Louisiana State Legislature to amend the applicable laws pertinent to official journals of parishes, municipalities, and school boards, and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
I'll offer an extra second. Second by Councilmember Juneau. Any comments or discussion? One at a time.
Is it possible to pass some type of resolution where the council members would have to meet with their constituents, say, quarterly? So that it sounds like, you know, the input of the people that elected y'all needs to be heard. And, you know, it's falling down in the country, and it's happening right here today. Thank you.
Mr. Regis,
What he said?
a clarification on your request. You're talking about outside of these meetings? Okay.
I'll talk to Councilman, please.
Okay.
Thank you for hearing me today. I'm Norris Babin, publisher of the Plaquemines Gazette, and I've been doing so almost 34 years, which sounds unbelievable. Well, I'm sorry, I've been publishing a paper for 34 years. We bought the Gazette in 1985. I'd like to ask you to vote against this resolution today, and for a number of reasons. First of all, I understand that it sounds selfish, and I guess it is, because it is my business, and I do understand the parameters that you're dealing with right now with budget constraints. But if I could tell you a few issues, at least from the way I see it. It's true you could save $57,000 a year if this would pass and you urge the state law to change and state law would change. The rate we charge has been the same since 1983. I went back in some records, and in 1983, the Plaquemines Gazette billed out $72,600 for publishing the public notices. 10 years later, in 93, they billed out $75,000. In 2003, they billed out $65,000. Today, it's around $57,000. Even though the rate has stayed the same over the 30-some-odd years, what we have done and what other papers in the state of Louisiana has done is we've established a database through the Louisiana Press Association where we post the public notices online. The public can get it on websites, and you can search any parish in the state. We've also, as our publication, we have a digital edition. If you subscribe to our paper, you can get a digital edition at no additional charge, emailed directly to a handheld device, a tablet, or your desktop, or whatever method you like seeing it. But you know, what we do is we publish the public notices in front of the public. And I know what you're looking at. You're thinking, well, we're not taking that away from the public. It's still there. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I don't think there's a family more plugged into the digital world than mine. Not so much myself and my wife, but my kids. They got the Facebook and everything else. I cannot imagine hardly anyone waking up in the morning, with maybe the exception of 3 or 4 people in this room, and saying, let me scan the governmental website and see if my name is withdrawn from registered voters lists, see which land is being subdivided and what might be built there, or seeing what sheriff sales are listed, tax bills, the many different things that we run as council, the council minutes, all of the different types of public notices that are listed. So we're doing that at no additional change in rate for over 30 years. And I think we do a pretty good job, but in addition to that, there's a security factor. Once it's printed in the paper, someone can show you if it was wrong, they can show you if it was right, they can go through to all of the papers and say, I don't see it. On a website, you can post something, take a screenshot, and you really don't know if it's been there 15 seconds or 15 years. So I think there's a security aspect. And again, I know you're not hiding it from the public, but in my view, I think you put a curtain between the public notices and your actions and the public. I know many instances where people will say, hey, I read this in the Gazette, and they go to the person, did you know your name is being withdrawn from the voters list? Did you see what they're doing with their property and empire? Did you see what they're doing here? And it's something you can hold in your hand. Maybe one day that won't be there. I certainly understand that. Again, it sounds selfish, I understand. But what I do, I really don't do for money, because if I did it for money, I'd go do something else, probably consulting or something. But I'd ask you to really think about this, and if what I'm being told is true, the Police Juror Association, it was a committee number 3 that passed this resolution, and it was the only resolution that was up for passage, so it was labeled the number 1 resolution. And from what my lobbyist for the Press Association said, the current president and the past president, who are still members of the Police Jurors Association, said that they have no intentions of pushing this legislation. So I ask you to consider this, and please vote against this. I don't think it's in the people's interest. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And let me go ahead. Yes.
I have a question in relation to this. As far as electronic communication, okay, it requires people to own a PC. If you check the ages of the people in the parish, most of them don't have a PC. They don't have any type of electronic communication. It's something I've been dealing with the CPRA for years, is that the people in the south end of the parish don't get information. Because, I'm on email, and I get everything from them. But nobody down there knows what's going on, because it's turning all into electronic communication. The Times-Picayune is not distributed down there. The Gazette is not distributed. Someone has to go out and buy one. So this is not, it's kind of irreverent to the citizens of the parish to depend on electronic communications right now. I mean, how many of your parents are picking information up on email and making decisions on it? I'm totally in favor of what Mr. Babbitt said. It's the way that the country's going, and it's losing contact with its constituents. The people that vote you in are, of age, and they just can't stay connected. I email over 100 people on coastal restoration issues in a parish, and that's just scratching the surface to try to get people to get involved with coastal restoration. So I've been doing this for years, and that's the way it is, and it's not a good direction to go in. Thank you.
Thank you. Just for the record, there was more than one committee that adopted this resolution. It was adopted in the Resolutions Committee by the entire state board. And the reason it was done is because it likes to give an option of population in parishes under 50,000. That's what the resolution states. So it's my attitude towards publication is that it's fine. But, it's a monopoly, and there's nobody else that can publish the minutes. The circulation is whatever it is. If we would be on the web, the circulation is worldwide. And first of all, when we talk about who adopted this, it wasn't just one committee. It was the entire Police Jury Association, the Police Jury Association membership, because I was sitting there when it happened. And so I picked up the packet and brought it back to the parish as a Police Jury Association member to spread that here to be able to give us an option. This gives the legislature the indication as to where we want to go. It doesn't do it. It just says we support their effort if they move in that direction. Now, with your paper, you know, no one else can qualify to do the print. With your also ownership, you're a political consultant. Now, you put what you want in the paper, and people are driven to your paper for the public notices because they have to under what you say. But on the other side of the house, you do political consulting and you write what you want. So in my mind, I'd like to open it up to the world and have it as an option. And if it doesn't pass today, it's not going to hurt my feelings, but it's an opportunity to move in that direction. So that's where I'm coming from.
And I appreciate that, with the exceptions that you said that what we put in the paper is our opinion. We do. Every time a newspaper puts anything in it, it's their opinion. But what we also do is we put everyone's opinion. I don't know of any letter that we ever got that we refused to print, or any elected official that had a contrary opinion to us that we ever refused to print. I do believe that what we do is we provide an outlet for all sides. It may not always have all sides in it, but I promise you, we're not making a decision on keeping a second side out, and I never will.
Well,
and I tell that to the man of the year.
I understand. And, you know, all I'm asking is that we pass this resolution to allow the state to decide it and make it an option, whether we do it or not. If the legislation is passed, then it's still decided.
And I understand that, and that's what I'm asking. I'm asking that our council not ask that this be a preferred method. And I understand where you're coming from, and I respect your view on that.
Thank you.
But I guess we just have a different view on it, and I do appreciate that.
Thank you.
I mean, how many people in this building know anything about this? Or, you know, since the state done it, did the public vote on it in a referendum? I don't know nothing about it.
Let me explain this to you, Mr. Regas. What this is, we attended a Police Jury Association convention of all 64 parishes in the state. And everybody got together, and they have different committees. And in one of the committees, this resolution was passed. And then this resolution was brought to the full body. And all 64 parishes were in that body and voted to say that they would like to see the legislature move in this direction. This doesn't do anything other than ask the legislature to consider us having the ability to use our website as our official journal. Now, the legislature, if Mr. Babin is correct, the legislature will not pass it. But me personally, I'd like to see us have that opportunity because it saves us $57,000.
So you'd have both ways?
We could have both ways. It'll be an option that this government will make at the time.
If you had both ways, Benny, it would include everybody.
I understand,
Even
but
when
let
you
me
get
finish.
to state level.
Let me just finish.
You just, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Right now, we don't have an option. Right now, we are forced into, under the law, having to deal with whatever the law says, that you got to print it in this paper, which has no competition for the minutes.
I understand.
And that's always been the case. All I'm saying is we'll have an option to do website. If we decide to do both, we do both. But at least we're looking a little bit forward. So that's my opinion. And if it, it doesn't resonate here,
yeah,
you're not going to hurt my feelings, but
no,
that's the direction I'm going. And
I understand.
Everything that I've heard you say so far, you said you emailed hundreds of people. You're on the website all the time. that proves my point. You know? So, but anyway.
No, it doesn't prove your point, because there's
It proves
thousands
my
of
point
people.
that, okay.
Let me just say this, okay? Even if you get it to the level of the legislature, okay, when you vote somebody in to the legislature or to here, do you feel that they should represent you?
Of course.
Okay. The last council that was here, there was never a council meeting in Buras, okay, by the district council people. Okay? So how can you represent anybody if you don't know I'm just saying, on a state level, you know, you're still supposed to contact your constituents in some way. And that's all I'm saying. I checked on the sunshine laws or whatever they were and got in touch with the people, and they said, you know, the law says all you got to do is print this out and put it on your door, and then everybody is expected to come and read it. So that's not a very effective method. So thank you. That's my opinion.
Thank you. Yes. Sure, you want to come up? You want to yield, Mr. Henry?
President Cormier. Can I direct my statement to President Cormier?
Sure, it's about this resolution?
No.
No.
I just want to.
Wait.
No, it's not about this.
No.
It's about Mr. Cormier, President Cormier. I'm just saying you need to pay attention to the council, the districts that's voting against things in here. Okay, pay particular attention.
All right, thank you, Ms.
Yes,
That has
ma'am.
nothing to do with the resolution, but.
No.
Vinny, your resolution, do it also direct the parish legislature liaison to lobby for this?
What this does, yeah, this is a resolution that asks the state legislature to do that.
But do it also ask our lobbyists to lobby for it?
No, it doesn't ask that. This is a simple resolution, the same resolution that was adopted by the Police Jury Association. We're just supporting the Police Jury Association.
Hey, sometimes me and Mr. Babbitt won't see eye to eye, but I want Mr. Babbitt on this one.
All right, go right ahead. Look, I've been in this situation before with this newspaper, and I was told one time by the editor that when you own the ink, you write what you want, and I believe it. So that's all I'm going to say. The machine is open.
Mr. Chairman?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Sorry.
I just want to say and go on record of saying is I appreciate your leadership, Mr. Roussel, tremendously. But on this issue, I think the community is not to that point yet. You know, I have issues also in certain areas with the paper in previous times. And I think I shared one incident with Mr. Babin off record. But I don't think our community is to the point where we can do, you know, utilize internet, go website and would keep everybody abreast of all of the circulations. I mean, just for instance, if a person property tax is up for sale or their name is to serve on a jury, you know, everybody's not going to go on a website to know that, even though if, you know, they would get prior notification, you know, through the paper. So, you know, I think I'm not going to support your legislation at this time. I'm going to go because I don't think it's at this time and I understand your position.
Let me just say this, Ms. Alexander, and I appreciate your comments. And what I'm going to do is, so nobody bleeds at the table, and the press doesn't have an opportunity to chop them up down the line, I will withdraw it at this time, and I'll defer it at this time, and we'll go forward.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We'll move to item new business. Oh, no, yeah. Number 7, introduction of resolutions wherein suspension is being sought. I think.
A resolution authorizing the Plaquemines Parish Permit Department to issue a temporary special permit to Scott Lott to place a trailer residence on the property located at 9273 Highway 23, Belchase, Louisiana, and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Yes. Jenna, would you clear the board, please? Councilman Juneau seeks a suspension of the rules for that item that was just read. Is there any objection to the suspension of the rules for that item? We're on item 7A1, and you could read it again, please.
A resolution authorizing the Plaquemines Parish Permit Department to issue a temporary special permit to Scott Lott to place a trailer residence on the property located at 9273 Highway 23, Bellchase, Louisiana, and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
No objection to the suspension of the rules? May I have none? Councilman Juneau offers. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Lapine. Sorry about that. Any comments or discussion? No comments or discussion here. You have comments?
Mr. Russo,
Talking to Mike.
what zone is that trailer going to be in?
It's a commercial area. They have a trailer already next to it. The only reason why I'm giving him a permit, or he asked me for a permit, every 6 months he's going to have to renew it because he's selling his house. He's going to move into the trailer, and he's going to build a new house. When the new house is built, he has to sell the trailer that he'll be living in.
It's not zoned for that. It can't be going there.
It's, I agree, I'm giving him a waiver to put it there. We trying to help him like we help everybody else to just let it be there for a certain time. He cannot leave it there. He can't make a trailer park. He can't do nothing but live in that trailer. That's all he can do.
But how many people are you going to do that throughout the parish? I mean, there could have been people prior to this that have asked the same thing and were told no.
Well, I don't know. I've just been here 2 months, and it's the first one that asked me.
Okay, to me, it's like you're opening a door that you really don't want to open up, but it's your decision.
But we have to, if he don't renew it, he's got to move it. If I don't renew it.
And if you read the zoning law says you can't be there.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. Councilman Batali.
Yeah, we can offer the variance, the grandfather this as a council without any problems. Because I don't have a problem doing it. I just want to know legally can we do this.
Right.
You'll have to ask the legal department for that, but it says a temporary special permit.
Temporary special.
It amounts to a variance.
It does amount to a variance, which you do have the power to give if you wish.
All right.
With that in mind, call for the question.
Question's been called. The machine is open. And the resolution is adopted 9-0. We move to item 7B.
Update and presentation by District 7.
Councilmember Salvant. Item will be deferred. Item C, is there anyone here from the state to speak on this resilience and competition? This is the second meeting that they have not shown, so I'll defer it one more time. This is from Pat Forbes' office. It's a request to come, and no one here from Pat Forbes' office? Hearing none, we'll move to item F. Councilmember Bartholomew.
Library, East Bank Library has officially been removed by the legislation from the council today, so it no longer exists. So I'm hoping in the very near future, whenever this government receive a surplus of funds, that we'll try to put things back in perspective.
Buy everybody a laptop.
Yep. No, I don't. Well, maybe you can. Maybe the council will. I'd like to introduce that, Mr. Russell.
Are you completed?
Yeah, I'm
all right. Item number 8, approval of the minutes from the February 12, 2015 meeting. Do I have someone offering the minutes? Offered by Councilman Edgecombe, second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilman Williams.
Nico, yeah.
Any comments or discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, machine is open on the minutes. And the minutes are approved 9-0. I have a motion for Mr. Edgecombe to adjourn. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Williams. Any comments or no discussion? Machine's open. Machine is open on adjournment.
Vote on the adjournment, please.
And we are adjourned 9-0 at 4:35. Thank you.